Welcome, everyone, to the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. I'm your host, TJ, and with me here, as always, is our NHL analyst and expert, the grumpy old man. They say there's no shame in his game because he's always the same.
That's me.
Before we start today's podcast and get in some housekeeping items, we do have an ad to read there, Grumpy. We do have ad there to read from Manscaped, Grumpy. You know, we talked about it before. Smooth sack summer. Oh, goodness. We do have an ad there to read from DraftKings there. But if you're new to the channel, first off, we welcome you here with open arms. This is a once-a-week podcast where we talk about anything and everything New York Islanders. But for today's sponsor, again, as I mentioned, is Manscaped here. And okay, perfect. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to announce that smooth sack summer is officially upon us. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're groomed from pubes to bum. Oh, goodness. Thanks to our friends here at Manscaped.
So is that true?
Thanks to our friends here at Manscaped, you can make the most of this season your smoothest yet. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep your boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer to get 20% off again and free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use the promo code THPN. Summertime and the trimming is easy. You know, you've heard us talk about it before. Manscaped has really great products. You know, I'll endorse them on that side. You know, it's one that you use. You don't have to worry about, you know, nicking yourself. It's pretty self-explanatory on that side, but it's something worth, if you haven't had it, at least checking out on that side. And it's 20% off. So if you ever considered it, now maybe is the time to take a closer look. But the Manscaped Performance Package 5.0 Ultra has everything you need to prepare that summer bod. And it's not going to give you that rock hard six pack, but it'll get your summer bod as ready as it can without the work in the gym. Every man knows how scary it can be when going in close to shave below the belt. And that's why I trust Manscaped for all my sensitive areas. Inside this package, you'll find the star of the show. That's the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. I still have the Lawnmower 2.0, and it works perfect. And that was like 3-4 years ago. So, you know, the product's also durable, which is important as well. Their 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads. A standard one for taking a little off the top, and the new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. We also have a dual LED light to provide contrast on multiple skin tones, 3 length settings, combs, and oh, did I mention the trimmer's waterproof too, right? So beach, lake, or shower, this razor will devour even the strongest of pubes. Now that you have the perfect haircut, use Manscaped's liquid formulations to keep that freshness even at the hottest summer barbecues. The Crop Smoother Aftershave Lotion and Crop Preserver Anti-Chafe Ball Deodorant. Once they touch your sack, you'll never go back. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to the Performance Package 5.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. More wet products, say no more. Manscaped's new Buff Bundle is all that you need to keep your summer heat a breeze. This bundle includes their signature silicone scrubber body wash, so you can ditch those nasty loofahs and grab a taste of freshness. Again, get 20% off and free shipping if you use the promo code THPN at Manscaped. Again, that's promo code THPN for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. It's Smooth Sack Summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind.
Man, I tell you what, they get their money's worth with that ad.
It's a long one.
Well, it's a long one because you can't read.
It
was almost 4 minutes long.
Okay, well, I know that's not. Is it really almost 4 minutes long?
Yes.
Huh?
You started at 3:30. Now it's 17:30. So let's say 3:15, 3:20. Well, I mean, it's just a long ad read for somebody who mumbles and bumbles, you know, over his words, like we saw Thursday night. That's kind of what I felt like listening to you.
Look at you. But again, as I mentioned earlier, this is an all Islanders podcast here. lots happened since our last show on the prior Saturday, right? The NHL Draft has happened, right? The Florida Panthers have won the Stanley Cup. Grumpy's right on that. I'm wrong on that one. So
What a shocker.
Look at you. As much as you like to try to paint me as a not so graceful winner when I'm correct, you're just the same thing on the other foot. But I was wrong on Florida. Edmonton got close. They
didn't get close. They didn't get close. When you got to hack like McDavid, scoring 0 points the last 2 games of the series, you deserve to lose.
Yeah, he just won the conference.
0.
Don't worry about it.
No points.
So Edmonton lost. Edmonton lost in Game 7 against the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers won themselves their first ever Stanley Cup. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers. And we're going to be talking about this today. I am shocked, happy, and was wrong about Lou Lamoriello in this year's draft. And I think that I share the same sentiment of a lot of individuals out there. Corey Prom and another very reputable writer said, absolutely shocked, and people on the draft floor were absolutely shocked that Lou Lamoriello came in with a first in 2 seconds and did not trade and drafted all of those players, right? So that's something absolutely I'm elated about. We've talked about the need to move from this old and antiquated team by restocking up the cupboard. So they went ahead and drafted their picks. We'll talk about those players they selected, kind of how maybe they fit in, what are their upsides, what are their weaknesses, what maybe could we see from them, what's their timetable of making it to the Islanders. But they went ahead and actually made draft selections, which I was shocked about. They did not trade away a single selection in the first 2 rounds. They had a first in 2 seconds. Shocked by that, Grump.
Who predicted that as well?
I think you and others.
Yeah, me. Nobody else but me. That's who. I don't know why you continue to doubt me. When I tell you something's going to happen, it's going to happen. Hey. Patrick Roy, next GM of the Islanders. I told you the day he was hired as a coach, he's going to be the next general manager. I told you that. You watch it. Don't doubt the master.
It could be, as I told you too, right? I said many podcasts ago and even up to our last podcast, if the Islanders drafted and used their draft selections to pick players, absolutely, I will then believe and have some sort of thought process that yes, the Islanders may be moving away from Lou Lamoriello and starting to transition away from him. Now, again, I don't understand why that's like such a, oh man, I got it, I'm so fantastic. Let me just, I guess, clarify from my standpoint. I'm not going to start to alter my thought process until I see something that should cause my thought process to alter. So up until that point, right, there was no reason to believe that. Just because they hired a coach midway through season and Patrick Roy and brought him on long term doesn't mean immediately, oh, Lou Lamoriello's out. But I will say this. In the past, right, Lou had 4 years in a row without using a single first-round draft pick. He would trade away draft selections any which way he can to improve the team for now. Now, from what I understand, he was hitting the phones very hard with Winnipeg. That's from reliable sources, Grumpy. They were hitting the phones hard with Winnipeg, trying to make something work. But as we talked about earlier, I just, like with Winnipeg, it doesn't make sense. We're not a good partner for them. Winnipeg's trying to win now. Us trading away second-round picks and giving away Jean-Gabriel Pageau just didn't make sense. They're trying to win now, just like before. I think we were absolutely in a win now mode. Now I'll be interested to see how things transpire going forward, but I don't know. Maybe I'm in a spot to where I could see the Islanders starting to shift a little bit of the way in the direction that the team and the franchise is headed. Perhaps I'd say that the fact that they used all 3 of those picks in the first 2 rounds and actually selected players would that be an indicator to me that yes, they may be on that path and that course now.
Okay. You went on so fucking long. You talked about so many things that I don't know even where to start. I'll
help you out, Grumpy. I'll give you a little rubric. I said,
you realize you just talked for 9 straight minutes to start the show. 9 minutes to start the show. 9 minutes.
Not 9 minutes.
9 minutes to start the show. 9 freaking minutes.
Okay. Here's a synopsis, Grump, right? Just try to bring out a notepad, bring out a notepad, take your freaking jellyfish brain energizer, whatever you need to do to stay up.
Shut up. This is what you need to know. I was right. TJ was wrong. About what? about everything, just like always. Every single thing he said was going to happen, and I said it's not going to happen. Guess who was right?
Two things.
Me. Not
Two
you,
things.
you. Me.
Two
Again.
things.
And I was rooting hard for Florida on Monday night. Why? Not because I like Florida. Not because I hate Edmonton. It's because TJ wouldn't shut his mouth about Connor McDavid.
You shouldn't be able to say anything. You didn't even watch the game per your mouth.
Watched it from the second.
No. Don't talk now. You didn't watch the game.
You talked for 45 minutes to start the show.
You said all last episode you did not care about the Stanley Cup final. Yes, so I don't need to hear any more about it. Hold on, stop. You said you didn't care. You didn't watch the prior two games when Edmonton was down 3-1 and down 3-2 in the series, and you didn't watch the Stanley Cup finals. So now all of a sudden you want to come in here and start celebrating. You said you didn't care. You weren't watching the game, and now we find out that what you were saying, just like I told you last episode, was a load of shit. You were watching the game, but you were just sitting there getting all pouty because you thought they could actually lose. I'll admit when I was wrong. I was wrong. That's fine. They stormed back down 3-0. I thought they could pull out the last one. They didn't. They ran out of gas. The goalie let in a weak goal. They lost. I'm wrong. That's fine. But I don't lie, and I don't play a pouty boy like you are. You pouty man. You pouty man, Grump.
You're done. I already let you.
Pouty man.
14 minutes you started talking the first 14 minutes ago. Okay. Here's the thing. I was not, like I said, I didn't watch the final game until the second period. I didn't watch the first period.
You didn't watch any of the last three games. That you said you didn't watch the prior two games, and you told me you weren't watching the last game. You weren't watching Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals because you didn't care. You were uninterested. Did you change your mind?
Is 14 minutes of straight running your mouth not enough for you?
Did you change your mind?
I put it on just because you pissed me off so much.
You bullshitter.
I put it on in the second period. And I was still bouncing back and forth between that and Copa America soccer.
Yeah. Okay.
The third period, I watched the whole third period. Absolutely did.
Yeah,
and I think I saw, but I didn't watch intermissions or anything like that. And, one thing I came to notice was, man, you know what? That Connor McDavid didn't score a meaningful goal the whole series. He didn't set up a meaningful goal the whole series. Yeah, you know what he did? He scored a shitload of points in an 8-1 game. He had 4 points.
You didn't even watch. Hold on. You didn't even watch it. How could you say this when you did not even watch?
Because I'm looking at the stats. Because I'm looking at the game stats.
You did not watch
the game stats. Listen, here we go.
You just self-admittedly did not watch game 4, 5, and 6. Stop.
I didn't watch the game. I didn't watch the game. Correct.
Games 4, 5, and 6, and you're going to start commenting on something when you did not watch the game. You could go on. I'll let you say anything you want after this, but you did not watch game 4, 5, and 6. You're making a comment like this. Mind you, we're talking about the Islanders draft. The Islanders had a draft, the NHL draft, Friday and Saturday. So let's try to.
I just figured we would follow back up and circle round to me being right about the Florida Panthers and you being wrong. That's why now zip it. I said, you know what? Let me check because Connor McDavid won the Conn Smythe and they had to come out and say, it's for the whole totality of the playoffs because he didn't do dog shit in the finals because you know what? He's a stat stuffer. He absolutely
What were his numbers in the finals?
Stat stuffer.
What were his numbers in the finals?
He had, let's see, there were 7 games.
Yep.
He had 11 points, 3 goals, and 11 assists.
Wow.
But here's the thing. You know what?
11 points.
I thought you said you were going to let me talk.
Continue.
I believe you said you were going to let me talk, so please let me. I said, you know what? I kept on seeing they flashed it all the second and third periods of game 7, how he hadn't scored a point in game 6 and only had 2 shots between game 6 and game 7. I'm like, you know what? He scored points. Okay, I'm just interested because it didn't seem to me, the games that I did watch, that he did anything where, okay, I'm putting this team on my back. So I said, let me just take a look. So I just pulled up the stats. He didn't score in the 8-1 game. He scored to make it 4-1. That game was over already. So he didn't have a point until it was 4-1. Then the game 5, he scored to make it 3-0.
How many points were scored in that game? He had 4 points in a 5-goal game. Just stop. You don't know what you didn't watch the game.
He scored an empty netter. He scored an empty netter. He had a Josh Bailey assist to make it 2-0, and then he scored his first goal of the series.
You didn't even watch the
game.
Make
it 3-0, and then he scores the empty netter. That's fine.
No, I don't even know where
he did the last 2 games.
Comments.
Absolutely freaking nothing.
That's cute.
Okay. And again, it's not to say he's not a good player. All I said was he's not Mario Lemieux. He's not Wayne Gretzky. He's not Bobby Orr.
Hey,
he's Connor McDavid.
Can you comment on more things that you didn't fucking watch and didn't acknowledge that you didn't watch? And then try to give me acknowledgments on him. Can you do that for me?
When I watch him, he's a stats stuffer.
You did it.
I saw him against Dallas. Yeah, he's got the wide open net. Can't do the job. Game 7, puck right on his stick, right in front of the net.
Yeah.
Not strong enough to fight off Forsling. Saves, and there you go. Just takes the puck away from him. He had chances. You have chances. That's what separates the all-time greats with the really good players. And he's a really good player. Matter of fact, I'll say he's a great player. But you know what? What separates the real champions in sport and the guys who are a step below, in the big situation, the really good players find a way to score when their team needs it. He was not capable of doing that. That's all I want to say. I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
Alrighty there, Joe.
I was right. You were wrong. Now, let's get
Joe.
back to what else I was right
Hey, Joe, we're going to mute you off because I actually want to bring this back to the draft. So you're going to
that's what I'm saying. TJ was adamant. Absolutely adamant the Islanders were going to be trading these draft picks, and I said they are not going to be trading draft picks. I said they're not going to be trading draft picks. I said that.
That's correct.
And I felt like they were not. Why? Because I felt that Patrick Roy had input on the team. TJ's like, no, absolutely not. No way. He has only Lou Lamoriello. I said, you watch.
I said, no. What I said was, okay, if you're going to try to go ahead and demean the conversation or to try to skew the conversation so much in the one direction, here it is, right? What I said is there has been nothing to date to show me that Patrick Roy has any control of the team. You just saying you think it because you think it. Well, great. I'm glad you think it because you think it. Some people like you make assumptions without fucking watching shit, like you just did with McDavid. And some people also make assumptions without showing or seeing any sort of evidence to back those decisions. I'm not one of those guys. You are. And that's fine.
I'm a prognosticator. I'm Grumpster. I see the future.
That's fine.
I see the future.
Hey, guess what? That's fine. I use what I see in reality, and I make those decisions and I make adjustments to my viewpoints at that. And I said again, if Lou Lamoriello used all 3 of those draft picks to make selections, I would say yes, maybe Patrick Roy absolutely has more input than what I originally anticipated. And guess what they did? And maybe he does. And if it's not him, maybe he is on the way out. That is also a very high possibility too. The fact that he did not make any trades definitely showcases that could be the possibility. And it wasn't just that, right? Today he came out, and we'll talk about this. They talked about the prioritization of the offseason. He said re-signing back guys on expiring deals is not a priority right now. I'm going to tell you, absolutely. Because again, what I've heard from his mouth and what he backed up with what he's done yesterday and today showcases that. Now I have evidence to support that, to say, yes, that does make sense. And yes, Grumpy, I will say that Lou Lamoriello may be absolutely on the way out, which is a good thing. I do not make split-hair decisions and just jump to whatever way the wind blows like you do, Grump. I let the evidence present itself, and I make an informed decision. Evidence, so there you go.
I'm able to decipher moves when they happen. Why do they make moves? Why do teams make certain moves? Why did they hire Patrick Roy? It's not because he's a fantastic coach, because he wasn't coaching. Patrick Roy's always wanted to be an NHL GM. When he comes out and the first thing he says is, I don't want to be a GM. You know what? I know he's lying. He's a freaking politician. He wants that GM job. He absolutely does. So they bring him in. And here's the thing. What they did today, Patrick Roy let him off his leash a little bit and said, this is after he's been beating him on the snout with a rolled up newspaper. This is what you're going to do, Lou. Whoopsh, whoopsh, whoopsh. He let him out and talk to the press. You're not allowed to say we're re-signing anybody because that's not happening. This is a good thing. I absolutely believe this is a good thing. Now.
I do as well. Oh, well, hold on, Joe. You're jumping all over the place. Jumping, Joe.
I didn't jump anywhere.
We're talking about what we saw on draft day. We're talking about, right? Again, I was wrong on that point. They used their selections. I want to also, as long as you could steer this in the direction of talking about our draft picks, that would be helpful. That would be appreciated, Grump.
So we make our draft picks.
Yes.
I look at Yzerman, not Steve Yzerman, the shitty general manager for the Detroit Red Wings, but what's his name? Cole Yzerman.
We're on there on Stevie Y, but continue.
Cole Yzerman. I looked at his, and here's the thing. Truth be told, I have never seen any of these guys play.
And nobody has, right? Anybody
who's some people have. Some people have.
What? The likelihood of the amount of individuals who watch full games of the USHL, who watch these full games, if it's not like, hey, we're throwing together a ragtag team for the World Juniors, very low, right? So maybe you watch 1 or 2 full games, but for the most part, everybody is dealing with the same level of knowledge on these prospects. They're going to be years away, and all we know is what we can read and what we're able to watch in clips. I'm not watching whole games. I'm not watching 15 whole games of the kid. I'm just not doing that.
It's not like college football, which, you see every Saturday. You see the players play every Saturday. It's not like that. We don't have access to watching, countless junior hockey league games overseas, just
European games, KHL games. I mean, nobody has the time for that.
So I depend on, the scouts that I kind of trust, the Promans, the Wheelers, McKenzie, Button, whatever the cast of characters, like 5 or 6 of them, right? And they had Yzerman, all had them ranked higher than 20. I'm like, okay. I watched the little snippet, the 30 seconds of the film of him, and I'm like, you know what I thought? I thought Oliver Wahlstrom 2.0.
Kid can't skate. But he's, yeah.
I'm not saying he can't skate. I'm just saying that he reminded me of Oliver Wahlstrom. He wasn't blowing past guys like they had the Connolly kid who had a whole bunch of red flags on him. That kid could skate on a diamond turn.
Just to give context, he was the guy drafted right before the Islanders who had an immense amount of talent on the ice, who is, if you look at on ice talent, was around the top 5, maybe top 10 range, but he had some questionable issues of character, character issues off the ice that moved him down from what would have been a bona fide absolute top 10 selection to pick number 20 or wherever it was right before the Islanders. So go ahead and continue.
And as I was watching the draft coverage last night, you can see the kids who can skate. They stop on a dime, they use their edge as well. And then we come up with Yzerman, and I'm like, oh, he does none of that. And, they just, he's a guy who likes to get in front of the net. Okay, we need guys like that. He's got a great shot. Fantastic. They say best shot in the draft. Great. We need something like that. No problem with it. My first thought on him was Oliver Wahlstrom 2.0, though. I don't know what he's going to turn into. No idea. I'm happy the Islanders made a selection. I'm glad they picked that kid where they did. And the only reason I brought up the Connolly kid is because he went at 19 when the Islanders, before their deal, had the 18th pick. That's the only reason I brought him up.
Yeah, and that was a guy who absolutely had talent. And here's the thing with Yzerman, right? From what I was able to watch, he is a guy who seems like he's always in the right spot at the right time, right? So a lot of his goals, you look at, it's like, oh, there's a rebound that pots loose, and oh, there's Yzerman able to bury it. And also, right, he's got really good stick handling ability. And like you were saying, he reminds you of Wahlstrom. I think there are certain things in Wahlstrom's game that remind me of what I see in Yzerman. He's really good with the puck, really good stick handling as well. I think he's got a great shot, right? He had the most the most goals in USHL history, or the most goals for the United States national development team in the history that they've been having this, program running. So, you don't score the most goals in the history of that program by mistake. He was on the same line, his line mates, absolutely, line mates with Calabrini, line mates with Connolly. He had great line mates, which may have helped those numbers too. But some of those names on the list that were, now have less goals than him in the National Development Program also had some great line mates as well. So you don't score that many goals and the most goals in the history of that program by mistake. That's something I'll say. When I looked at the skating, just watching his clips, it looked like an average skater. So I think he's a better skater than Wahlstrom, hopefully. And that's always the thing, right? If you could skate, you could be successful because his shot is elite. People are mentioning, hey, he's not a complete player. He lacks on a defensive side. He lacks a 200-foot game. I'll be honest with you, that doesn't bother me at all. What this team desperately needs is guys who are elite finishers and guys who have the ability to put the puck in the net. And if this kid can be one of those, I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of defensive prowess to have a top line winger that can put the puck in the back of the net.
I didn't even care what position they drafted. The team just desperately needs young talent. Didn't matter what it was. Defense, forward, goaltender, didn't matter to me. The team is bereft of talent, of young talent and talent in their system, period. Must restock the farm system. I've been talking about it for years now. So this is a good day for me, a really good day for me.
Very happy.
Yes, really good day for me because, okay, now could they have maneuvered, maybe traded a later round draft pick to move up or, okay, well, we have 6 guys in this spot. Let's trade down 4 or 5 spots, pick up an extra pick too. Yeah, they could have done that. I don't think the old man's really capable of that for the most part. So for me, really, really happy day. We're going to talk about the other guys that got drafted and some of the things we heard from them about them and other stuff. But just from my perspective, the fact that we used our first 3 picks, 1 in the first, 2 in the second, and every other one that you had available, really, really happy.
Yeah, I think.
What does it say about next year for the big team, though?
Well, we're going to get to that in a second. I do want to talk about the implications that it has, right? When you make those selections, the reason why we're happy, we're number one bereft of talent in their prospect pool. We just are. We're one of the worst prospect systems and worst prospect farm systems in the NHL. Dead last or second to last, bottom 3, pretty much consensus among everybody who watches film on these young players, these young professionals and these kids and juniors. And you don't get that by multiple of these individuals by mistake. Usually there's some, if everybody's in the consensus of that, maybe you need to look within and maybe there's a problem. So drafting those players to me signals that maybe we're not going to be as much in a win now mode as we have been in the past in these last few years. And when Lou, and in tandem of Lou saying the priority is not focusing on signing back players on expiring deals, that also speaks volumes. Because what has Lou done in his tenure here with the Islanders? Anytime a guy is coming up to where they're going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, he proactively signs them in the summer before they become a UFA, so he doesn't have to worry about, okay, where are we at the deadline? Should we trade the player? Should we get rid of them? Right? We've got Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri, who are both going to be UFAs at the end of this year. And they said the priority is not focusing on signing back those 2 players right now. It doesn't mean that they won't sign those players back, but it just means that, okay, maybe they're going to entertain, if we're not in a good spot in a position come the trade deadline, we're trading those 2 players away perhaps.
And do you think maybe they had organizational meetings with Patty Waugh, Lamoriello, and just said, you know what?
I don't know.
Maybe they had a come to Jesus meeting with Lou, everyone involved, and said, you know what? This team is not good enough to contend for a Stanley Cup. We're going to go the draft way. We're going to, hey, if something, magical happens where Brock Nelson comes out and scores 60 goals next year, okay, we'll visit re-signing him. But I'm very pleased so far, it's still early, that he came out and said that they're not exploring that at this time. That is, to me, that's the best news you could have as Islander fans. It's a little late. It's absolutely a little late.
Better late than ever, though.
And the rebuild / retool, whatever you want to call it, is going to take longer now. It just is, because you had opportunities over the last number of years to transition away from the old guard to the new, and they chose not to do it. Maybe now there's the realization has come upon the organization that, okay, it's not going to get done. What can we get for a guy like Nelson? What can we get for a guy like Palmieri or Pajot? But there's one other thing I want to say. We're talking, buyouts could happen till before July 1st, before Monday.
Yeah, we're not buying anything out.
Right. But here's the thing. For anyone who was thinking, hey, maybe we'll buy out Anders Lee, I guarantee you that is not happening, and he is not getting traded.
We're not going to do a thing this offseason. I 100% am in the same camp as you at this point. We didn't make – I thought the one spot for us to make a move were to be to trade away bad cap obligations, trading away a guy like Anders Lee. But when you announce the first-round pick and you're up there on stage with Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders brass, they're not trading you away or buying you out. They have no intentions on doing that. He will be here for the next 2 years at least.
Did Anders Lee win the King Clancy Award, or was he just up for it?
He won the King Clancy Award.
Okay.
Yes.
There's no way the Islanders are trading away the King Clancy Award winner, the captain of the team, and the guy who announces the first-round draft pick. That's just not happening.
Not moving him.
That was my big. As soon as I saw him walking up to the stage, I'm like, uh-oh. I think I even called TJ and I said, he's not going anywhere. He's not going.
And I think everybody else who looks at that too has that same exact consensus. If you're going to be having a guy announce, you're probably not getting rid of him, especially as he's the captain, King Clancy Trophy winner. He's here to stay. I don't think we're doing anything this offseason. Nothing at all.
Nope. And
we're gonna. Good.
If you remember, a couple of weeks ago, I saw other teams making moves, and I said, the longer it goes that the Islanders don't make a move, I just don't feel they're going to make a move.
Okay, well, that's just not true. I mean, like historically, Lou, when he's done things in the past, has waited till draft day, like when he traded for Alexander Roman. He's done that.
The only thing he's ever done, that's the only thing in 6 years that he's ever done, is that one move. That's it.
Not true. That's not true.
Name another move that he's done before the draft, at the draft or before the draft for the Islanders. He just has
via trades or via free agency. What are you talking about?
Either. He doesn't do anything in the offseason.
We've signed players via free agency. They haven't been big name guys, but they've been guys who are aged players on vet minimum contracts. We've done those before. Okay. I really don't think we're doing a thing, right? I don't think we're going to have anything of substantial movement coming to the Islanders. We're going to do nothing at this point. And I think, again, right, like what gives me the reason to believe that? Saying that you're not focusing on re-signing back Brock Nelson or Kyle Palmieri, that's not a priority. That tells you all you need to know at this point there's no reason for him to lie about that. None. No. It does not help the situation of the Islanders to say, "Oh, we're not going to worry about signing them back right now. That's not a priority." That just means I think that he absolutely could be getting transitioned away from as we speak. I wouldn't be shocked at all by that at this point now, just based off of those comments and based off of using our draft picks. That's enough evidence for me to believe that they can be moving away from him. Simple. The items I wanted to talk about before we moved on from Yzerman, I know we kind of jumped away from him. The opinions on him varied, and it's funny. He was supposed to originally going into this draft class year supposed to be a much higher selection than pick number 20, but I think it's because he underwhelmed at times. He's not a playmaker, that's for certain. I mean, he's got like 20 assists a season playing with Calabrini and Connolly. He's not necessarily a playmaker. He's a pure goal scorer. And now here's the thing, right? If the intention was we think this guy could fit well with a guy like Matt Barzal in the future, I mean, he doesn't need to be a playmaker. He's got a guy who's a pass-happy player, and you've got a guy in Yzerman who, by all accounts, from what you read and what you watch, is a shot-happy player. Well, as long as you complement each other well enough and you see a result on the ice, that's really what you're looking for. We start looking at some of those other selections, Grump. I don't know if you want to start jumping into some of those other selections that we made in the second round. Islanders use both of those picks. The Islanders, under Lou Lamoriello, they're not hesitant to draft overage players. They just have been doing that for under really Lou's tenure, and they're still doing that now. They did that this year's draft as well.
What's the kid from Finland? Jesse Pulkkinen.
Mm-hmm.
6'6", 220 pounds. Like I said, I haven't watched these guys. Full disclosure, just watch the highlights. And when they say, when he's straight line skater, he's pretty good. He can drive. He's a big guy, but he really struggles in tight spaces. the way he plays defense is, he uses his frame and he reaches with the stick because he's got a long reach, but he really struggles in tight and doesn't have great change of direction. That's a problem in today's NHL. It just is. Back 30 years ago, when you didn't have a whole bunch of small guys darting around, you could get away with that. It's really difficult to do that now. Really difficult.
When I heard what you were discussing, or when they, and again, anybody who says, "Oh yeah, Polkinen, that's a guy that I was targeting. I've watched a lot of his games," just call bullshit. No, nobody is watching games of all these players unless that's your profession, that's your job. But the initial reaction by the individuals at ESPN was, "Oh, that's a project." Those are the first words that come out of their mouth. It's like, okay,
but they've seen him. Those guys have seen him.
That's their job. That's their profession. That's correct. I'm going to trust them. I'm just saying, for people like, "Oh, we're happy about this, this, and this, and this." Everybody's doing the same thing. They're just reading and watching a little bit of highlight and tapes. But I'll tell you this: if it pans out, great. If it doesn't, great. I mean, like, the draft just in general is a crapshoot. It is. When you find and identify certain players early on in the draft, where it's like, "Oh, this guy was a consensus early selection. He slipped all the way to us," like the defenseman from was it Denver University, who led all defensemen, the freshman who led all defensemen in points by him. Right. By him. Like, for example, guys like that, when you see, "Oh man, this guy dropped, this guy was projected to be, an early, definitely top five selection." Where'd he slip to? Like 13, 14, something like that?
12, I believe.
12. A top five, one of those guys where you think this is going to be a top 5 type player. His brother was, plays for the Red Wings. This kid led all defensemen in college in points as a freshman, just going into his draft class year. That's a guy where it's like, "Oh, great, we were able to get a guy like that. He slipped to us." But when you start getting those later rounds, it absolutely is a crapshoot. So you just want as many of those punches or kicks at the can as possible.
And the thing was, Minnesota felt so highly about Byam, they traded up one spot with Philadelphia, who I thought had a terrible draft, but which I'm happy about. But they traded up and gave up whatever it was, a 3rd round pick or 4th round pick, whatever it was, to move up one spot to get that guy. That's just being smart when you see somebody slip like that. Now, I will say, for the first couple of guys, the consensus ranking was the Islanders picked guys who were ranked higher than their draft selection, which makes me feel happy. Like I said, I just saw, like I said, the clip. I'm just talking about the clips that I watched, which is, mean nothing. They're putting their best stuff out there. I just got an Oliver Wahlstrom vibe for Yzerman, and I got really a project vibe with the kid from Finland.
Yeah, and we're going to have no earthly idea until I start actually watching some of these prospects play, until as to what you're going to see. And those are going to be things that when we start, okay, we're at prospect camp. Okay, cool. I'm going to watch things like that. I'm going to be able to make informed opinions on my own, with watching full games, not just watching little highlight clips and saying, "Wow, it was a pretty neat move." You watch a full game in its entirety, right? Maybe you have one fantastic move, but there's other spots that are really glaring issues. But maybe you do a lot of things really well that you don't have that highlight reel play, but you're a really solid player. And who was that? That was the other guy who was drafted there second in the second round for us. What was his name, Grumpy? There,
Kamil Bednarik. And I got a vibe off of him too. Casey Zizekas.
He's a guy to where when you read about him, and they said it after he was selected, he's a guy who doesn't do anything extremely well, but does everything really, really average and really solid. He's a very solid player. He's a guy who has a really high compete level. He's a guy who is a real team player. I mean, you need guys like that. If you could be a guy who's like a 3rd line guy or a very good 4th liner, I mean, that's what you're looking for in players that can contribute to your team.
Yeah, I got a Casey Cizikas vibe out of him. Absolutely.
Okay, nothing else you want to add on it? That's fine. Yes, so the big thing, I think the big takeaway, right? We drafted a few goalies, 2 different goalies in this year's draft. As to the goalie and their play, the one of them was overaged. He was the guy from CSK Moscow. And he's one of the guys who posted really good numbers. And it's nice to see, but again, he's a 21-year-old kid. Goalies take longer to develop. Goaltender is not necessarily a spot of weakness for us, though, if that makes sense. So at that point, it's really you're just trying to draft best players you think that are available. But 2 goalie selections when you've got a guy like Sorokin, Tikkanen, who's apparently very highly touted. But, you can never have enough, potentially good goalies to have in a system. So if you identify them and you think that they're going to be successful, that's good to have.
Okay. If you're drafting 2 goalies back to back, what does it tell me? They don't feel confident about any of the goalies in their system. If you draft one, okay, we draft one a year, whatever. But if you're taking 2, they don't have any faith in Lennox or Tikkanen or whoever, Appleby, all of them. That's what you draft 2. I don't know. And Scott Wheeler liked the second pick better, the guy from Finland who's 6'6", 212. Gidolf, whatever.
Now, and here's the thing: like these guys you're talking about them, right? They are years away. Now, the kid from Finland's playing in the junior league of the Finnish elite league, so like he's playing in a second tier league. Years away, years and years and years away. And that's probably the most apt way you can put it. Maybe Yzerman is the guy who maybe you're looking maybe 2 or so years away until maybe he starts getting a legitimate chance. But again, he's not a guy who's going to be able to step in immediately and make an impact. But those are players to where, hey, if we could start to see just the mindset shift, that's the important thing I think for us as Islander fans is seeing that, okay, gotcha, squeaking into the postseason every year is not going to be good enough where we want it to go. We need to prioritize restocking the cupboards and making these selections of picks. That I think that is something I can absolutely get behind.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. I'm gonna go out and come back. I'm gonna go out and come back in.
Okay. Fair enough. But yeah, it's one of those two with the mindset we have. I'm absolutely on board. I think that firmly I could state maybe Lou's on the way out. It needs to happen. And if we could find, a new GM, if it's going to be Patrick Waugh, give it a shot. Why not? If it's be somebody different, I will say that I do definitely think that, Lou in some capacity is on the way out though. Were you having tech problems, Grump?
Yeah, you're still looking a little fuzzy on my end.
Okay.
Well, it seems like you're lagging behind, or I don't know what the issue is. I thought maybe if I went out and came back in, that would clear it up. It kind of they're still very similar.
Okay, well, Grumpy, why don't you share your thoughts on the additional players I've kind of shared some on the draft picks, Grump. I don't know if you want to add that in either.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, our last pick in this, I think the 6th round was Xavier Below, a 6', 190-pound defenseman. He's more of a mobile type defenseman. Hey, no problem. Who knows if they're going to pan out? We really don't know, right? So you just, like as many kicks in the cans as you could possibly have. We're all for that. Overall, just glad the Islanders actually made all their selections this year as opposed to what they've done in previous seasons. Is it a change in direction? I hope so. I think so. As I've been very vocal about previously, I feel that Patrick Waugh absolutely has impact on where the team is going forward in the future. And hopefully this is a change just by, hey, we're going to make sure that we make our draft picks.
Did you want to mention anything about the players that were drafted?
I already did.
Okay, nothing else you want to mention. That's fine. Okay. Well, then we're going to move on then, Grump. We don't need to hammer that point home that we keep hammering home. But the thing that I think is important for us to talk about, and again, I've been mentioning it here, separation from the way things have been in the past, right? Doug Huda has been confirmed. He will not be back. That's I don't think anybody's shocked by that, right? Stanley Cup was awful last year. Not a shock at all by that. with the RFAs, right? We're going to find out which ones are qualified there and which one will be released tomorrow. They did say, right, Oliver Wahlstrom will be qualified. They're not just going to let him walk away for free. But Lou did add, right, there's a chance to move him, give him a fresh start. That may happen. I cannot imagine there being any value at this point for Oliver Wahlstrom.
None.
You know, it's like we're trading him for future considerations, if that makes sense, or something that is like, oh, we got, a 5th round pick. Don't expect anything for Oliver Wahlstrom.
Or maybe for someone like Kaliev, who also seems like he's on the way out at Los Angeles, maybe just a change of scenery guy. I just threw his name out there because he's on the outs as well. Neither guy really has much value. You're hoping to change the scenery could maybe turn their careers around.
Okay. And again, as we're looking through these two, right? Lou said he's not determined whether he's going to re-sign any of his UFAs. These are Cal Clutterbuck, Matt Martin. And I guess, right, they didn't mention here Ryan Riley, right, like Mike Riley as well. But discussions have happened between Lou and the camp and their camps between Cal Clutterbuck and Matt Martin, meaning that you could see Matty Martz or Cal Clutterbuck somehow back in an Islanders sweater next year. That'd be a shocking revelation if that did happen. But we have, I think it was Arthur Staple released an article. When you start adding in the players that have long-term injury, additional cap space that these teams could take advantage of, the Islanders have the least amount of available cap space entering free agency.
Right, due to the qualifying offers that they have to give to Holmstrom and to Wahlstrom, the Islanders have something like $2.95 million in cap space.
I'm telling you.
But honestly, it's all self-inflicted by Lou Lamoriello. We mentioned it last year. We mentioned it 2 years ago. You keep on re-signing guys who are in their 30s to long-term extensions. I don't care what the AAV is. These guys were never going to be with the team by the time we turn it around. Never. Just not going to freaking happen. And to give them those extensions, Mayfield, Engvall, Lee, just Palmieri, just unnecessary. That's why you find yourself in this situation. They're saying Mike Riley's looking, could potentially have like a 3-year deal, like $3.5 million per. Well, you know what? Bye-bye Mike Riley.
See you later.
He was a buyout from Boston last year. They bought him out last year.
Yeah, and then he was waived by Florida.
Right.
Stanley Cup champs. Andrew Gross did say, though, again, Lou Lamoriello says it's not a priority at this time to re-sign those eligible for contract extensions. Brock Nelson, Kyle Palmieri.
Good.
Shocked. I'm shocked by it. Nothing had shown me until this point that was going to be the case. I'd say we're definitely moving away from Lou. This is good news. Simple as that. This is about as good of a news as I could have expected going into this draft weekend. About as good as things could have been. Simple as that.
You can't. This team, where it's at presently, you cannot be re-signing guys in their 30s, in their early to mid 30s to contract extensions. Can't do it. They're not going to be here by the time, we flip the page. We've been talking the last couple of years, move Brock Nelson. Why? Not because Brock Nelson sucks, because he's got the most value. So you move a guy like that, you get yourself a young prospect. We talked about it. When Colorado was looking for a second-line center, not this offseason, the season before. Maybe you could have gotten an Alex Newhook and a first and a second-round pick for Brock Nelson. That's how you turn around a veteran who's not going to be here when the team is good, and you transition to the next phase. You're able to draft guys. You get a young prospect who comes in. He grows with the team. Tell me you wouldn't want that now. It's funny because you're hearing the vast majority of the fans now are like, oh, man, we need to do a full rebuild now. Well, you know what? You didn't have to do a full rebuild if you were smart, if Lamoriello was smart and just started chipping away little pieces at a time. You still stay competitive and still keep a bright future outlook. Now, we're kind of past that.
And you look at a lot of teams, what they've done. Some moves that were absolutely shocking, like Tampa. Trading away Sergachev, who, again, Sergachev is not old as a defenseman. Defensemen usually last a longer time period. He's coming back from a serious leg injury, which is worth noting. But they trade him away for 2 second-round picks. And I mean, like, that was a shock, but they wanted to make sure they had enough cap space to either A, sign back Stamkos, or B, they want to make a run, is what Pierre LeBrun was saying at Jake Gensel. So, like, and again, and Tampa notices and realizes that, okay, let's start looking at the core of these players. Okay, Victor Hedman is no spring chicken. Vasilevsky is a goalie who's now in his 30s, who's had quite a few injuries this last year that kept him out for the first half of the season. Okay, Stamkos, who's a UFA, is in his 30s. Kucherov is coming up on his 30s, if not 30 already. Braden Point's like 28 years old. You're starting to look around the room and saying, we've got a lot of these guys who are veterans who've had a lot of hard miles, a lot of long Stanley Cup runs on their legs. We have one last chance. They're not as concerned about, okay, we have to try to keep things well skewed. We need some young players to mix in. Fuck it. They're going all in, and they know that things are going to crash and burn. And when that does happen, they need to also start the transition already. We need to be prioritizing adding draft picks, but also maybe making one last stab at it is what they're going to try to do.
Brisebois is not afraid to make the tough decisions for Tampa.
Yeah.
Just isn't. They also moved Tanner Jeannot. They paid a big first round pick and a second, I believe, for Tanner Jeannot, and they traded him really for scraps. Why? They need cap space.
Yep.
But you know what they're not doing? They're not trading assets with the player, though. If you noticed, yeah, they're not getting as much back as the player's value. But I mean, Utah gave up a couple of players, and they gave them draft picks, and they got a draft pick for Jeannot. I think it was a second round pick, and maybe next year and a fourth round this year, whatever it was. But that's how you sometimes you just got to in the salary cap era. You have to do things like that. And yep. Tampa Bay, they won 2 Stanley Cups. So I absolutely understand, and I agree with you, TJ. I think that they're going to be like Pittsburgh is now, where Pittsburgh rode it for as long as they could with Crosby and Malkin and Letang. And now they're at the point, you know what, even though they picked up Kevin Hayes today, they kind of know it's kind of over. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to load up on draft picks. They got Kevin Hayes and a second round pick.
Same thing as Washington's doing. Right, Washington added. I know they added Pierre-Luc Dubois, who's going to be on a long-term contract. Luc Dubois is not old, Pierre-Luc Dubois, but they're starting to realize we've got to start moving away from the old crew. We're going to have to start trading away these players that are not part of our future. We need to start acquiring more draft picks, and if we find the ability to add a younger player, or a guy who maybe is coming close to the prime of his career, and we could trade an asset to bring in a guy like that who needs to get paid, and they have the cap space, they want to do that. They are absolutely changing the way that the team is structured. They're changing over, and they're overhauling that team. It's the same thing Pittsburgh is going to be doing. It's the same thing we're going to start to see happening in Tampa if things don't work out. I think they're going to give it one more year, right? They went to 3 Stanley Cups in 3 years. This last year was, got bounced in the first round by the champs.
Florida. They played Florida.
Got bounced in the first round by the champs. So maybe that gives them a little bit more thought to say, okay, gotcha. If this went different, that went different, maybe we have a better chance, and they're going to give it one last run. And they're trying to structure the team the best way they can to do that.
Just to talk about Washington real quick. I thought, what did they do last year, right? They bring in Sandin, right? They move guys out, get first round picks. Then they trade and they get Sandin, a younger defenseman, right? This year, what do they do this offseason? They get Pierre-Luc Dubois. I mean, and here's the thing. Okay, he didn't have a great year last year. Okay, his motor doesn't run all the time. Maybe they find a way to motivate him. It's not like the kid doesn't have any talent. He's been a consistent 60-point-a-year guy. And if they can get him to produce, he's a young piece moving forward. They also got Andrew Mangiapane from Calgary for, I think, a second-round pick. They also got Logan Thompson, the goaltender from Vegas, who's going to split time with Charlie Lindgren. And they wound up shedding the big contract of Darcy Kemper.
Yep.
So I'm not saying that they're making the playoffs next year or they're winning division, but they're making the transition away. You're seeing that. They're doing both. They're shedding their older players and bringing new guys on. Did they make a mistake? Probably the Tom Wilson contract is not going to age well.
That's correct. Bad contract there.
But, you can see them, okay, we realize we're not at that level anymore. They've come to that realization. Pittsburgh, I feel, has come to that realization in some way, shape, or form. I hope the Islanders are there right now.
I'd say that, right? I definitely have more optimism thinking that that's the case, right? But if you come out, let's say, on not July 1st, but July 10th or July 5th after the 4th of July, and he comes out and says, "Hey, it wasn't a priority for us on July 1st, but we re-signed back Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri on July the 5th." I'll be a little concerned again. But if you're going to be in a spot to where, hey, you're going to enter the year, and depending on where the team is, right? If we've well overperformed, and they say, great, we could go ahead and keep these guys on what we think could be one last magical run, right? And you haven't signed them back, that's fine. But it also gives you the flexibility where, hey, if this team is kind of in the middle of the pack, like we have been for the last 3+ years in a row, you have the ability to say, gotcha, we're not going to let these players walk for free. We know and acknowledge that this being now what would be in the scenario, our 4th year in a row being a middle of the pack team, we need to trade away a guy like Brock Nelson, who's a bona fide top 6 forward, who is a guy, or top 6 center, who's a really solid number 2 center in the league, and a guy like Kyle Palmieri, who can be a really solid third liner for a team making a playoff push. You can add more draft picks and draft capital without strapping yourself to an additional contract extension to a guy in their 32, 33 years old. So I'm optimistic. If we sign back players, if we sign back Brock Nelson to a long-term extension or Kyle Palmieri to a long-term extension, I'll be worried again. But as of right now, I mean, that comment right there is huge. I think we're finally starting to move in the correct direction, starting to move away from the problems, starting to realize that, yes, the problems that we were going to have to worry about, the rebuild that is going to have to come, we're acknowledging that. That is the first step of the solution. It's acknowledging that, yes, we're not good enough to win a Stanley Cup. How do we now create the plan, and how do we get ourselves on that path? And I think by doing things like this is us acknowledging that, yes, we're not good enough to win a Stanley Cup, and that the GM and ownership understand that now.
And hopefully. And I liked what New Jersey has done this offseason. They wound up getting at number 10, Siliev, who was for number 3. Everyone had him number 3, a big defenseman, 6'7", 211 pounds. And I thought, okay, everyone's had him going to Anaheim. And he just slipped, and he fell to the Devils, of all teams. I like what the Devils have done this offseason. They moved John Marino today to Utah for, I think a second round pick, a couple of seconds, right? So, I mean, that's a good move for the Devils. Why? Because Brett Pesce is going to sign there Monday. Gives them more stability on that team. The Devils are a team that's gotten better. They got Markstrom. They're getting more veteran presence on the back end. I just like the direction that Jersey's gone in. I really look at the teams in the Metro, right?
Oh yeah, I mean the Pesce pretty much, it's a Pesce exchange for Marino. You move out Marino.
That's an upgrade.
You get 2 second-round picks. You're going to pay more for Pesce than you paid for Marino. That's fine. So you're going to increase your cap hit for Pesce, but you're going to get the better defenseman, and you got rid of the old one and got 2 second-round picks for it. That's an absolute win, in my opinion, for the Devils. I thought the Devils did a really good job over these last few days, a fantastic job by the Devils.
And you saw Ottawa making a move for Ullmark. Boston needed to free up cap space, and they wound up moving Ullmark, who's going to be a UFA at the end of next year. They determined Swayman's their number 1. They bring Korpisalo in, which Ottawa wind up eating some salary cap from him for the next 3 years, I believe 3 or 4 years. And, he's your backup. I mean, it seems like Boston did as good as they could for Ullmark, who had a no-move clause or no trade clause. And here's another thing I've learned. You know what? All you have to do, they might have no trade clauses or no move clauses. If you talk to these guys and you say, you're not part of our future, a lot of them waive that clause in their contract.
I don't want to be here miserable for the next 4 years where the ownership group or the GM is going to be, and the coach is going to be treat me like shit. I'm still going to make my money, but at least I'd rather have it in a good situation. I may have to uproot my family, change schools, change, the zip code I'm in. But you know what? If it makes your work a little bit better and you're not in an environment to where you're like, I hate playing for this team, Well, it's crazy how quick that things could change. But we do have an ad read to jump into before we start jumping into some of these comments. This is from DraftKings, guys. Bet on the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. We know the NHL Finals is over. We got it. We understand. But I tell you one thing. DraftKings does a great job with their same game parlays. You talk about what sport can we watch? What sport are we transitioning to? I mean, this is great. MLB, right? It's summer. It's about to be the dog days of summer. The MLB is a great sport to pick up. And again, we've always talked about same game parlays. So that's like, hey, I'm predicting Aaron Judge is going to smack a home run and Juan Soto is going to go have 3 strikeouts. You can add a whole bunch of these same gambles and bets in the same game to increase your payout to an even larger amount. Download the app now and use the promo code THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for just betting $5 on hockey and on sports there. And again, that's promo code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.100gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available if you have a gambling problem. If you call 888-79-77-77 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of the Boot Hill Casino and Resort. You must be 21 years or older, but age varies by jurisdiction. It's void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire again 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility, deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources.
Nice ad read, TJ. I like it. Much.
I almost feel like leaving this up the entire show because this news right here is huge.
I don't think it's as huge as you do.
Why not?
I just don't. I don't. I'm interested to see what the Islanders do.
Under Lou Lamoriello, every single offseason, anybody who's a UFA that wasn't 40 years old or 39 years old, we immediately offered them contract extensions year after year after year, 7-year deals. What did we do last offseason? Guys who are rentals. Right? Oh, gotcha. Here you go, Pierre Engvall. Here's a 7-year contract. Oh, Scott Mayfield. Here's a 7-year contract. Oh, Ryan. Years prior, Ryan Pulock, Adam Pelech. Here's 2 7-year contracts. Oh, Bo Horvat. Here's an 8-year contract. Oh, Matt Park. Every single player around was getting 7 or 8-year contracts. And again, that was the precedent that was set. Now at this point, they said it's not a priority for us right now to focus on signing back Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri. I think that could be very good news.
Also, they did sign Kyle McLean earlier this offseason as well.
Which I talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying, just to piggyback off they signed guys early. What does it say for Noah Dobson? Because he didn't include them as somebody who they're not interested in, talking about an extension. Maybe his agent has seen Darnell Nurse in the playoffs, or he's seen Zach Werenski not do anything or be hurt all the time in Columbus, or, he's seen all these guys who make ridiculous amounts of money, and he said, this kid's going to cash in. It's interesting. It'll be an interesting next year and a half. It will be.
Here's the thing with the way the cap is increasing, projected like another $5 million the year after this. Because remember, Noah Dobson's still under contract for this year. He'll have a year more of team control as an RFA, but his contract technically would not kick in until the 2025-2026 season. Again, when the salary cap will be another $5 million higher than it is now. Just with the amount of growth that we've seen here in the NHL and the product as of recent, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to expect a lot of increases, barring anything crazy and unexpected, with the NHL salary cap. You're going to have to pay him, right? He finished. Where did he finish? Where did he finish in the voting for Norris?
10th, I think.
Gotcha. 10th, and that's one of those things. Once you start,
maybe 8th. Here's the thing. He was one of the. They showed the thing. I don't know, it was 8th or 10th. And remember, he really tailed off at the end of the year.
Yeah, the injury, I think, hurt him. The back injury that he had, I think, hurt him. But anyway, yeah, did
we want to talk about the Winnipeg trade scenarios that supposedly were out there?
Well, I don't think we need to hit too much on it, but I mean, when you're looking at it, Winnipeg was looking to shop Ehlers because he's not going to sign back in all likelihood.
And McGrody.
Rucker McGrody said he's not going to sign a contract with Winnipeg.
So Phil had a brilliant trade idea. The first round pick, Simon Holmstrom and J.G. Pajot for Rutger McGrody and Nikolai Ehlers. And I said to him, Mike, if you're Winnipeg, why do you make that deal?
Yeah, I don't think it really matters to talk about it because it's got no bearing on us anymore. I firmly am in the camp of this team is starting to transition. I don't even need to speculate on something that could have happened. We're not. If we made that trade or we made a trade there with Winnipeg, we were actively pursuing a trade with Winnipeg multiple times on the day of the draft, on the draft floor, before the draft started, multiple conversations.
Would you entertain some type of trade, not for Ehlers, but for McGrody?
Yeah, but we're not going to do that.
Well, I'm just saying, would you? I mean, because to me, that's a type of trade you make.
I would have been fine giving up a first-round pick for Rucker McGrody, even though, right, like you look at the leverage if you know the kid's not going to sign back. And now here's the thing. Maybe he's changed his mind. Who the fuck knows? I refuse to believe that Winnipeg just said, yeah, well, we're just going to let him walk down the future for nothing. We'll find out. But I would have had no problem at all if we traded our first-round pick for Rucker McGrody. None at all.
That's the type of guy that, okay, if we want to make a hockey deal, absolutely. Why? Because he's 20 years old, 19, 20, I think 20, 19 or 20 years old. Whatever he is. That's somebody that you can build around the future going forward. Where Nikolai Ehlers make the Islanders more fun to watch this year, it certainly would. But considering where the team is roster-wise, by the time that the team is good again, he's going to be on the downside.
Okay, well, let's start getting some comments here. But I just, on Winnipeg, though, I think we tried talking to him, but we're not good trade partners.
Right.
We don't have players now unless we're saying, we're trading. We're not going to trade any of these players yet. I think if we do trade a guy like Nelson or Palmieri, it's going to be at the deadline where they're going to have their most value. We're not going to trade them at this point to try to add to the team for now. But I don't know. So I'm in the camp just based off the comments that we may start transitioning away from the way we have things currently set up to try to make more draft selections, to try acquire draft capital, which is the things that we need to do. Rick Roma says here, Paul Maurice was smart enough to bail on that cancerous situation in Winnipeg, and it led to a Florida job, and he is now a champion and Hall of Famer. Congratulations to Paul Maurice.
Would you agree that Paul Maurice is a Hall of Famer?
I think he's a fucking loser and a quitter.
Would you agree he's a Hall of Famer?
You know what? He's Frank Gore. He's your Frank Gore. That's what he is. Okay. If that answers your question.
But Frank Gore never won anything. Okay, that's a difference. He's fourth all-time in wins. Frank Gore never won anything. Never won anything. Never won anything.
The most rushing yards in the history of the NFL.
Never won anything.
Or the NFL.
He first of all does not have the most rushing yards.
Second most yards rushing in the history of the NFL.
Again, didn't win anything. Paul Maurice has won the Stanley Cup. And I think he's well-liked in the hockey world, by the way.
He will be. I don't think he deserves it, though.
Okay. Fourth all-time in wins and a Stanley Cup champion. I guarantee you he makes the Hall of Fame.
He's got the most losses in the history of the NHL, though, right?
I'm just going to tell you.
Okay, that's my point, though. You have the most losses in the history of the NHL. Guess what? You know what? It's like saying Eli Manning. Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls, right? But what did he finish with? His record was a 500 quarterback. Should Eli Manning be in the Hall of Fame? He will, but does he deserve it? Fuck no.
Winning matters. He will make the Hall of Fame. He absolutely will.
Nothing to do with him.
And I'll be honest with you. The people I was most happy with Florida winning were Paul Maurice, Dmitry Kulikov, Kyle Okposo, and Roberto Luongo. Without a doubt. Those 4 guys I was most happy for. And you listen to Paul Maurice, I'm just like, you know what? What a good guy. You can tell. You can just tell. And I was super happy for Luongo, ex-Islander player, and the same thing with Okposo. And Dmitry Kulikov, who was there for a long time, left, came back. Good for him. Good for Florida.
Okay, guys. We got Flex Crew who says, wow, Yzerman, 20th overall pick, an absolute steal. I'm very happy we kept our draft picks for once, but if Lou and ownership decided to go this direction, they need to sell. I think it's setting up where that could be a possibility this season. I really do.
I hope Yzerman's a steal at 20, but just looking at his film, he looks like Oliver Wahlstrom. and color me a little jaded because he didn't pan out. The kid can shoot. The description sounds a lot like Oliver Wahlstrom too. When Pronman was talking about him, he did say that, the whole issue that he had, there might be parts of the game you don't like where he disappears for a while, but he has that shot. Well, we had that in Oliver Wahlstrom.
Rick Roma says here, the summer of TJ was ruined by the Panthers. Sorry, TJ. And Lou building that prospect pool. Do I sense an 8-year extension on the horizon for the old man Lou? I just think he's on the way out.
He looked old getting up from his chair today. He struggled standing up. I was like, oh, or Friday night, sorry. When I'm like, oh, look at him. He looks like maybe he just sat there. Maybe his leg fell asleep. He was sitting in the same position for a long time. I don't know. But it's the first time I'm like, oh, look at him. He's struggling standing up.
We got here, JP says, early show, Paul Maurice makes me squirm, but he got his cup. So does Ahmed's cousin. Florida was the best team, no doubt. I disagree. Jeremy Ford says here, drafting Bednarik, Yzerman's line mate, is kind of like picking up Varlamov to be there with Sorokin. I hope it works for Yzerman. The Islanders could sure use his goal scoring. Absolutely.
Smart comment from Jeremy, as usual. I think of all the times Jeremy's put in comments, I think there's only been one where I question his sanity. Other than that, he's always very thoughtful and he's smart.
Freedom from Adventure says here, I really feel positive about the players of the Islanders drafted. It gives me some hope for the future. I haven't seen the trades or buyouts needed to improve, but no season is over. But if not, the season is over before it begins. Yeah, I think the season they may just be chalking up. If internally it's not enough, they're going to sell. I think that's the way this was set up by those comments from Lou.
Don't know about the prospects. Hope they pan out. But I do like the fact that they drafted players who were not, Simon Holmstrom rated 42nd, winds up going 19 or whatever number he went. I don't want to see reaches in the first round.
What's up, Jack? All the way in the UK. Hope you're doing well, bud. JP says here, if I know Bettman's NHL, Utah will be in the finals in 3 years.
They have $45 million in cap space, and they got Sergachev and they got Marino. I like what they've done. New ownership, not afraid to spend money. Got to spend money. You want to win, you got to spend.
Yeah, and Arizona, right? I'll still the old Arizona Coyotes, now a Utah team. What do they call them? The Utah Hockey Club.
They don't even have a freaking name, if you can believe that.
The Utah Hockey Club, I think, is what they're going.
Call them the Grizzlies or something.
Yeah,
but maybe, I don't know.
The Utah Hockey Team.
How about the Utah Blizzard? How about the Blizzard?
I don't know. Utah Hockey Team has added some pieces there that are going to help their team potentially. Jeremy Ford said here, I like Polnikin. How is that? Is it Polkinen? Thank you, Pick, and the two goalies. I was hoping for Yegorov, the Russian goalie. All in all, a good draft there by the Islanders.
Didn't Yegorov go to the Devils, I believe?
I think so.
The Devils.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, two goalies. You know what it tells me? You don't have any faith in the goalies you have in your system. I don't have a problem drafting a goalie every year, honestly.
Nick D said here, what happened to a 5:00 start? What's going on? You guys have been all over the place now. Before, it was at 5. Yeah, so we're probably going to just be starting the show earlier going forward. We're still going to figure that out, but yes. So you got to that's why you got to be subscribed on YouTube. You got to hit the notification bell, like the video, right? If you like the content we put out, like the video. Rich Arnold says here, like I say, same team minus Cal Clutterbuck and Matt Martin signing. Yes, the Blackhoff was our big move. Yes, he did mention that. Hey, he wouldn't have signed Maxim Saplakov if it was not, if he didn't sign him to play in Bridgeport in the AHL. So
that's fine.
We'll see on that. Hopefully,
nothing. He signed for nothing. It's a 1-year deal. I have no problem with that.
Yeah. They're not going to move-wise. They're doing nothing. They're not doing anything. No moves.
Roll a dice on a 25-year-old who had a career year in Russia. No problem.
Yep. They're not going to make any moves. This team that we have currently is what we're going to have going forward. As long as we sell at next year's deadline, if we're not in a spot where we're, the team, I'm fine with that. Nick D said here, podcast reminder, fire Lou Lamoriello and his son. JP said, it's summertime and the trimming is easy, says JP. Freedom Fun Adventure says, TJ, I bet all the boys down at your job manhandled Manhandled uses Manscaped. Kleiserman is just a goal scoring machine. Very impressed with all the top players. He outscored by a lot.
And like I said, I don't know. Just watching film, the only thing that worries me about the defenseman is when they say that he's really not good in tight areas. And a lot of big guys aren't.
You're talking about Polkinen, right?
Yes, that could be an issue.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's a big swing.
If
you can't skate, you can't play in the NHL. Simple as that.
In the modern day NHL, and these guys are years away, 3-4 years away.
I'd say more than that. I mean, that kid, 6'6", maybe 5 years away. And he's 19 years old, but wouldn't shock me at all if he's got to be 24 before he gets a chance. Nick D says here, Rich, you're right. It's going to be the exact same team at training camp. Yep, absolutely. Rick Roma said here, I used a weed whacker to shave my balls. I like to live dangerously.
No. He didn't say the weed whacker. He said a weed whacker. So he does not use Manscaped. He goes, I don't know if it's the electric one or if it's the gas powered. If you're using gas powered, you really got to be careful. The electric ones, they don't seem to spin the wheel as much as good as they do with the gas powered. You don't want that thing hitting anything important. That's all I'm going to say.
JP said here, I don't think that's what George Gershwin had in mind. I don't know who that is.
You don't know who George Gershwin is?
No.
Fuck. Okay.
Who is George Gershwin? Grumpy, tell me.
He's an American composer.
No idea who the fuck that is.
You probably heard.
What songs did he compose, Grumpy, if he's so famous?
If you ever seen the movie Fantasia Part 2, there was quite like Rhapsody in Blue, I believe, was something that he composed. You don't know what. Here's the thing. You don't fucking know any of it because you don't know any music anyway. I could say anything. You're like, oh, I never heard that.
Yeah, sounds like
Crocodile Rock. He did that one too. You heard that one?
That sounds fake.
Yeah. No, it's not fake. It was by Elton John. Rich Arnold says the only way we can pray for is not extending Palmieri and Nelson.
Yep. And trading them at the deadline.
Yep.
Peter Alves, Grump.
What happened to all the hockey trades before the draft started? I hoped and prayed Lee and Pajot were getting traded, but after seeing Lee announce a draft selection, reality smacked me in the face like a ton of bricks. Very, very true. Nice family, by the way, Peter.
It's a good thing, though. That's the thing. We're going to be not doubling down on this team. Simple as that.
TJ, Son X would love to jump on the podcast if you could just shoot him the code.
Okay. Well, again, it's not mine. I have my phone. I'm able to see. So Thomas Bachgrump.
Gents, I like the picks. Also, The Athletic says the Islanders are in the worst cap situation in the entire league. Yeah, it's a problem. Got him. And they like, oh, well, Pajot. I don't think JG Pajot has any appeal to anyone at $5 million per.
He does have appeal.
I don't think he does.
I think he does. I think you're wrong.
At $5 million a year for 2 more years, you think JG Pajot?
If you're going to commit to a rebuild, trade him and eat half the cap hit.
Why do you want to eat cap hit? You need money.
Listen, if you're going to be going through a rebuild,
you just don't understand.
How is rebuild done? I do understand. I fully understand.
You want to get as much
maximization.
You want to get as much cap off your book. So guess what? You can start trading for. You can start eating cap from other teams, and get draft picks in return. That's what you want.
You can do both.
You can't do both. You can't have a high cap number and then eat cap from your own guys and then still bring in. You can't do that.
Cap of $2.5 million a year is not going to break.
I am not trading anything. I just don't think he has much appeal. That's all I'm saying. At his age and 2 years left at $5 million.
Teams are calling on him this year at the trade deadline. You remember what Arthur Staples said? Teams are calling on him. He was not interested in entertaining.
Maybe they wanted the Islanders to eat cap and they said no. Who knows?
Yeah, not the case. There is interest. You're just wrong. Nick D said here, we also have to trade. Well, Palmieri, Brock Nelson, Jean Gabriel Pajot. We can get younger and faster.
It's gonna be a process. We have nothing in the minors.
Big Isles fan says here, I told Isles Girl 3 Kim that Patrick Waugh is going to be the next GM. She disagrees.
You just should have told her that I said so, and she would have believed.
Doug R said Utah seems to be taking anybody now. Let's ship Lee and Pajot to Utah for anything.
Why weren't they doing that when they were in Arizona? Because they had a different owner. He didn't want to spend any money. They didn't want to eat cap. This guy, Smith, he's got no problem with it.
Todd Peterson says, pay attention, old man. That's right, Grumpy. When you were just not paying attention earlier this show. Freedom Fun Adventure says here, did Son X no show? Yeah, he did. He just
he wants to get in. He wants to be on the show. TJ's being the tyrant that he is, won't send in the code to join the show.
He just popped in, but he's showing up an hour and 20 minutes late, Grump.
Put X on. I want to see X for a second. See what he looks like.
No, he's not going to show us. Like he's there. He's extending the audio.
What's up, X? There you go, baby.
Yeah, y'all never told me what time you were doing it, so I assumed 7:45.
Well, here's the thing, X. I reveled in the fact I was right on everything and TJ was wrong at the top of the show.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
You're going to do the comments, Mr. X?
Yeah, I got him.
There you go. That X is a champion.
Let me ask you this. Grumpy told me you weren't even going to show up to the show today.
I said that you had an engagement party you're going to today.
Yep. X isn't even going to probably show up to the show. I said, do you want to give X an update as to when we're going on? No, he's probably not going to.
First of all, you didn't say that. You didn't say that.
I assumed 7:45. So
that's okay.
That's why I shot the message and said, hey, when do y'all start?
Ask you, X. Easy Grump.
That X is a stand-up citizen. I like that X guy.
If only I can fill up the waters, right?
Good job, X. Yeah, the waters are a little low, X.
Yeah, okay.
You got a sink right over there. All right.
In front of Venture. Yes. Did Son X no show? Yeah, he's late showed. So pretty much a no show. I don't care about Ehlers that much, but Wrecker McGrody would be a definite addition. Does TJ talk this much to the lovely Doc Page?
Nope.
Nope. Brandon Gaines had a wrong comment here. He says McDavid ain't on Mario's level. He is. He's higher. He's much higher.
Simple. Not even close. Not even
as
close.
Todd Peterson, Grump.
Regarding Wah, I suggested president in time after he does an audit. That's what I said. Doesn't mean he will take it and might see it for what it is, a shit show. Since 1990, the finals were rigged. First 3 games were a different series. Then the comeback was to say face in the world. It's out there and it was rigged, and it was, but you didn't watch it. So shut your yap. I was right. That's okay, right. Todd. That's okay, Todd. I was right. TJ was wrong.
Listen to that, Todd. And as much as he likes to complain about me being a score winner, you got one guy who doesn't watch. You didn't even watch. Didn't even watch. Shouldn't have mattered. I didn't even know what you're talking about. It shouldn't have mattered. You
and I'm still 100%. I stand behind my comment. You need to have more than 3 games in 11 days. That's just ridiculous.
You didn't watch any of the games, so I don't want to hear your opinion.
I watched
your opinion is invalid.
The last game.
No games watched, invalid opinion. Simple as that.
I will say
invalid opinion. No need to even listen to you, Grump. We can just mute you during that section. Didn't even watch the game.
Also,
really mute you.
I was doing some talking with X, and I said to him, I said, you know what? I did some thinking. I said, I can't remember the last time that I watched all of the Stanley Cup Finals games. It might have been 2011 with Vancouver and Boston. That might have been the last time.
Yeah, I guess you're just not.
You're
just not a hockey fan. Goon says here, I watch all the games.
Goon says, was Son X more deserving of an MVP award than McDavid was in the Stanley Cup Finals? Abso-freaking-lutely. Send me the stats stuff.
Has all been traded. No, he's not. CJ says, we need to do stuff ASAP, or else all the free agents and possible trades are not there. We're not going to do anything.
We're not doing anything.
Rebuild is upon us, CJ. Red Loop and Power Ranger.
The Red Loop and Power Ranger, yeah.
Goon Grump.
TJ and Grumpy, would you consider Anders Lee not wearing a tie last night a fashion faux pas? All we hear is Radio Gaga. Okay.
Did you see his outfit?
I thought he was okay. He just wore
fucking shit up. Look like a professional.
You know what? He wore a pair of slacks and a button-up shirt. Here's the thing. I rip on Anders Lee for a lot of things. I'm not ripping him for not wearing a jacket. Also, the whole Islander team is in Italy for Ryan Pulak's wedding.
Yes.
Talk about what does it tell you? Talk about the cul-de-sac crew mentality. They all go on a freaking destination wedding. I'm like, come on. Yeah, I have no problem. He's got a jacket
you got 2 buttons. Put a button up, and wear yourself a tie, like all the professionals in the room. Like that young man, like Gary Bettman, like Lou, the ancient Lamoriello. And who is that on the other side of this kid?
That's Trent Klatt.
Trent Klatt, that's the head of the scouting director. Yes.
Yeah, the failed scouting department. And here's the thing.
Come on now.
I'm glad they took a picture with Anders Lee smiling, because when he went up, he had the
big frown. He had the Anders Lee frown on there.
I'm glad he smiled. I'm not going to dump on Anders Lee today. Let me tell you something. My days of dumping Anders Lee are going to be just like Josh Bailey. As soon as he's gone, you're never going to hear me pick on him again. Ever.
Nope, there's no need to at that point. See,
he's honestly almost at that point now.
Yep. And as soon as he finds himself where he's a obsolete player, where he's only playing like 7-8 minutes a night as a bottom line guy, I'd have no problem. It just
if he's a third liner, I have no problem with it. Just
none at all.
No.
I'll say this here too, that I was thinking. Bill Guerin, holy shit, that he put on some weight. My God.
I would say the term for Bill Guerin I would use is portly.
I'd say husky. However you need to say it is nice, but Bill Guerin put on a lot of weight. I was like, oh my God.
When I was a kid, we had to go to the husky section. That's what they call it. Husky.
Bruce Harper, Grump.
I feel that was the worst Islander draft of all time. I don't know which one he's talking about.
This one?
Yeah. I'm not going there.
I don't think that's the case.
I mean, would you say it's fair to say that the top 3 prospects that we drafted this year are going to be 1, 2, and 3 on our top prospect list when they do the rankings?
No, Danny Nelson probably is better than those other 2 kids.
Danny
Nelson is probably better than those other 2 kids. So, Irishman's going to definitely be 1. I don't even think there's a dispute over that one. I think probably Danny Nelson's 2. I think he's got a higher ceiling than both the giant Pulkkinen and
Zekas Jr.
and Bednarik. Chuck Bednarik out there.
That's right, Chuck Bednarik. I wonder if that's Chuck Bednarik's grandson.
Chuck Bednarik's kid. But no.
Not his kid.
His great-great-great-grandson. That's right.
I want to tell you, if Chuck Bednarik, if that was his son, man, Chuck was doing all right for himself.
All righty. Here you go. Nobody questions Cole Yzerman's skating ability. They just say it's average. I mean, if your skating is not a plus at this level, that's a problem usually.
I just looked at the film, albeit small sample size. It didn't seem like he had a whole lot of
game breaking
edges. No, he didn't run by anyone. No one. So it's like, okay, it looks like Oliver Wahlstrom. That's all. I hope I'm wrong.
Peter M.
He had considerably more goals than Wahlstrom. I think he's more talented. That's what I'm hoping for. It just reminded me of Wahlstrom. That's all he said.
Bruce Harper.
Yzerman will be a bust at the NHL level, as he's not a good skater and will be unable to make zone entries. Bruce Harper is
unhappy with the pick.
He should be on this show. He's unhappy.
I'll say this, though. He's not a great skater, but
he knows he played for the Jets for how many freaking years? Number 42. He knows what a bad team looks like.
I'll say this much. If he's going to slot into being a first line guy, which are a guy who's a top 6, if he's paired up with a guy like Matt Barzal does his own entries. You know what I mean? Cole Yzerman's going to be like hey, you come in, you find yourself a spot, and hopefully you get the puck fed to you by Matt Barzal to try to hit it in the back of the net. That's it.
I just want to say to everyone, pump the brakes on Cole Yzerman.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Okay. I'm not saying he can't turn out to be a player. I'm just saying he's at least 3 years away. At least 3 years away.
I don't disagree. 2-3 years away at least. Shadow Rider, Grump.
We need 3 to 4 pieces. Rangers are inflated wussies. Power play queens. The bread man never ate puss.
I like it. Was all rhymey there too.
Yzerman reminds me of Luke Robitaille. Well, let me tell you something. If he's Luke Robitaille, we got ourselves a Hall of Famer.
Good.
Grumpy, who would you trust more managing your life savings, John Spano or Jamarcus Russell? I'd much rather have a tin can in the backyard than either one of those 2 guys.
I didn't know Jamarcus Russell had fallen across hard times financially. Oh God,
please, really?
I didn't know that. Bruce Harper says
he ate out a whole section of the Piggly Wiggly.
Yzerman isn't even going to be a poor man's Oliver Wahlstrom, says Bruce Harper.
Wow. I don't know.
Johnny Mack says here, I love these Islanders picks. The 2 centers and defensemen both have a lot of potential. And you right 2 Pop says here, it's a myth that Yzerman can't skate. He has speed. He needs to work on his explosiveness and edges.
Okay, he's not a great skater.
He isn't a cement, boot, like Wally is. Wahlstrom was not a great skater. I'm just saying, when I watched the clips that I saw, and again, albeit it's only like 20 or 30 of them, Every single time. He's got good stick handling ability. He has a great shot. He puts himself in the right position. I think he has, the know with all the hockey IQ to know where he needs to be. He was not a guy where he was blazing past people and using his speed to separate. He wasn't a guy where it's like, great, I'm going to get the puck and I'm going to create an odd man break all by myself and go ahead and create an opportunity to breakaway to score. He just wasn't a guy with a lot of explosion and speed.
No.
And that's all I'm saying. It just, maybe he's an average skater. You just don't want it to be like, okay, great, he doesn't improve on his skating, or he can't improve past where he is now, and he stagnates and he becomes a below average skater at the NHL level. That's where you really have to worry, because if he could be an average skater, I'm fine with that at the NHL level. He's got such a great shot that average skating can be overlooked.
Okay. I'm fine with that. How do you think Corey Pronman rated him as a skater?
Average.
I mean, you can live with average, but
I'm fine with average.
I just, like I said, for me, and I don't know these guys. All I see is a little snippet, and I listen what they say when, I didn't see him. You got to work on explosiveness and edges. Okay. Maybe you could get a little more explosive, but edges are tough. You either have that skill or you don't.
State of survival, Grump.
Imagine if we traded this pick away. It could come back to bite a lot of asses.
Happy we didn't. That's for certain.
I had a feeling we were going to draft all our guys this year. Just did.
Bruce is not happy.
Eisenman will be the type of guy who'll score 60-plus goals in the juniors and less than 10 in 80 NHL games. You know who that sounds like?
Who does that sound like, Grump?
Simon Holmstrom.
Well, Holmstrom never had a lot of goals in minors either.
Yeah, it's true.
But let's continue on.
Bruce does not like these selections. I don't think it was a super deep draft. At least that's not what they're saying. So, like I said, I don't have a problem with it.
Here you go. I bet Eiserman has 1 or 2 years at Boston, University of Boston, then comes up.
Okay, I think he will play in Bridgeport. They're not just going to take him right from college and pop him into the
unless he really excels. I mean, I don't think he's that type of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Johnny Mack says, I would have been happy with the Connolly kid as well. Trouble aside, very skilled. Yep.
I read a big article on the issues with him last night, which I'll discuss after the show with you, TJ.
Okay. Okay. I remember when Eiserman was once the second best prospect in this draft. That's the thing. He dropped.
He dropped big time.
So he underperformed what the expectation was for him playing with Calabrini and Connolly this year.
Yeah.
He underperformed from what the expectations were for him. That's why I said, it's like, okay, there's a reason why people were so opinionated on him, was because they either had one thought of him going into this year and his production or lack thereof in certain areas completely dropped him off of people's lists. So,
and The Athletic also had a long article on the process of him dropping, which I'll shoot to you later, TJ.
State of survival here, Grumpy.
I asked Pierre McGuire in his podcast whether Eiserman is NHL ready. He says he is at least a year out. He said there's a chance he could play with Calabrini if he decides to go to BU.
And then Doug R. Grump.
Keep Palmieri and Nelson for now until the trade deadline. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Here's the thing. I think you're going to get more at the deadline than you're going to get now.
What?
You'll get more assets at the deadline than you will now. That's
okay. I misheard. I thought you said you're going to get more assets. My mistake. I was reading something there. Tony Fitz-a-Little Cheese says a little late is a bit of an understatement. That's right for the Islanders. The Pulaks have been married. Results may vary. Frank Kaplan, Grump.
Maybe he got married to somebody else. I don't know. Frank Kaplan says, is there a possibility that Wah was in on these picks? Maybe.
I mean, like he may have input, right? I'm willing to absolutely say
I'm going to say probably not, because they're guys from the overseas, most of them. You got the Finnish kid. I think they got 2 Finns. You got a Russian goaltender. You got a guy from the USA Hockey. That's Eiserman. Bednarik, also USA Hockey. One thing I could say, it doesn't seem like the Islanders like to draft anyone from Canada anymore.
Yeah, but I will say this. I mean, like input, I think more just of what the direction potentially maybe of the future of the team could be. That's what I mean by maybe.
Is the scouting staff banned from Canada?
Perhaps. Freedom Fund Adventure, your Grump.
Martin and Clutter must go. Clutter gets beat up and intimidated without an enforcer, so not effective. Nelson, Aho, Engvall, Pajot, Lee all need to go. Positive summer thus far, but need a new roster. It can't happen all in 1 year. Can't do it all in 1 year. Todd Peterson says, get your life jackets ready. Last place in the Metro. I don't think they'll be last.
They're not going to be that bad. No.
I think Philadelphia is going to take a step back. Maybe it's because I hate them so much. I'm just kind of wishing.
It is. Rick Rock Grump.
This season remains questionable, but I, for one, am elated to have a cold-blooded sniper in the pipeline. That is not Wally or Bellows. This 17-year-old already has lead shot. Good heavens. Wallstrom was viewed that way. He absolutely was.
He was. Now, he never scored, right? Never had the most goals. So it's like, again, you don't by mistake score the most goals in the history of the United States National Development Program. But it could have helped with the playmakers you were playing with that are more playmakers in nature, and your job was there to not focus on defense because he didn't, and put the puck in the back of the net.
I was totally disappointed in the Wallstrom selection. Remember, we were at that draft party, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't like Wallstrom. I love Dobson, but not Wallstrom.
Okay, I don't remember. It's 5 years ago. Freedom Fund Adventure Grump.
Didn't think Pulak had kind of money to hire chain smokers to play his wedding, unless his blonde wife's family has deep pockets. TB hasn't been perfect, but got to give him some credit for moving.
Tampa Bay hasn't been perfect, but they got to give him credit for moving some salary around. Yeah, he had the chain smokers play at their wedding in Italy. Ryan Pulak did. They're a popular band.
He makes what, $5 million a year? He can afford a band.
Yeah. State of Survival Grump.
I mean, shit.
I assume they're not going out there free.
Jeff Piccoli saved Brooke Shields, and he got a $50,000 award, and he gave it to Van Halen to play his birthday party. State of Survival says TJ doesn't even get that.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Else.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Hold on. When did Fast Times at Ridgemont High come out, Grump?
A long time ago, but it's fucking pop culture, dude. You don't even watch movies.
When did it come out? When was that show coming out? Is a movie? When did that movie come out?
1982, 83.
Before I was born.
Yeah. So you ever seen The Godfather? That was before you were born too.
Oh my God. You're expecting me to know every movie before I was born.
You don't know any movies.
State of Survival
says people are saying that high-end wingers usually slip in drafts. Wallstrom 7th, Caulfield supposed to be top 10, Yzerman top 10. Yzerman was never top 10. They had him like at 17. I think the Athletic did a consensus, and the only guys who had him 7 were Wheeler and Button. Everybody else had him like 14, 15, 16, something like that. His consensus overall was 13.
Oh, here you go, Grumpy. Drew L.
I mean, I love Cole Yzerman. All the rest are just project players that hopefully develop. Well, we all hope all of them develop.
Drew Grump.
Ads, I know he was a consideration for the number 1 pick about a year ago before Macklin and Celebrini. Before Macklin Celebrini became the story of the draft.
And here, Flex Crew.
Also, I think it's worth noting Yzerman is still only 17. He doesn't turn 18 until late August. So he was tearing up the league, setting records while being younger than most of the talent available. Most of the competition. Okay, there we go.
I thought he had an early birthday. Okay, maybe not. Great looking shirt, Johnny Mac says, Grump.
There you go.
Adventure.
Grumpy, I said before the draft, the Islanders need to draft 2 goalies. Shared, surprisingly, hasn't developed. Skarek is probably what he wanted to say. Other guy in the AHL is a stopgap. Appleby is a jag. Lennox and Tikkanen are good prospects, so a need. I don't believe in drafting 2 goalies in 1 year.
They do that all the time. Whatever. If you feel like, we think this guy's great, that guy's great, whatever. Just always, in my opinion, for the NHL draft, unless you're in the first round or high first round pick, always just best player available.
Yeah.
Whoever you think the best player available is. I don't give a shit if you draft 5 defensemen in 1 year's draft. Draft the best player available.
You don't want to draft 5 goalies, though, because only 1 can play.
Not 5 goalies, but I mean more like 5 defensemen in 1 year's draft. Whatever. Draft whoever you think the best player.
I have no problem with the Islanders restocking their farm system. Just none. None.
Absolutely.
And now it's just still on empty. At least they're not riding on fumes anymore. It's still, the light is still on, but you put a little gallon of gas in there. Declan says, Lee being at the draft crushed my hopes and dreams of trading him. 100% agree.
Ed K.
Does Watt coach the team this year or become general manager or both? He'll just coach the team this year then he'll take over as GM.
Yeah, that's Grumpy's thoughts. That's Grumpy's.
Absolutely. That's right. That's my thoughts on that. It has been since they signed him.
Charles Dittmer.
Charles Dittmer says McDavid did the right thing by not accepting the Conn Smythe. I gained a lot of respect for him for that. The Conn Smythe always should go to a player on the winning team. I think what they should do, you should just be whoever the MVP of the finals is. It should not be the whole playoffs.
There you go, Declan.
At least you see Lou being different. He made every pick. He's very open with the media. That's how you know he's on the way out. We have a good idea of what will happen with certain guys, and he's not rushing extensions.
Why the question I would ask is, why do you think there is change? I don't think at the age of, and this is my point, right? I think he's on the way out. I don't think at the age of 81 years old, he's like, I've always been really secretive of everything I'm doing. I don't really ever want to share information. I always want to be vague and use generalities. And I'm going to trade away my draft picks to make the team better. So I'm going to do everything is in complete opposite of what I've done in the past. I think the only reasonable and rational explanation of that is he's on the way out. Mr. Buster.
Grumpy makes more and more sense every day. Totally agree with him. Thank you, Mr. Buster.
Grumpy's wrong always.
Well, here's the thing. It's easy for TJ. He's young. The back of his head is still freaking soft.
Clutter Pierre, let's move along, Grumpy. You got 20 minutes, my friend.
Here he is. Being the tyrant again. You talked for 15 minutes at the start of the show. Some incoherent Joe Biden freaking mumbling.
As you're saying it, you can't even form a sentence together.
I channeled my own Joe Biden.
All right, you get to it, huh?
Cloutier Pierre says Lou wants to re-sign players at market value. Team salary cap is a concern. You got to let go of whoever's a free agent this year. Clutterbuck Martin, see you later. Sorry. State of Survival says for next season, I think we will be as good as the previous season. The trouble is every other team in our division has taken steps forward. Not every team. The Devils absolutely have. I don't see us coming out on top of the Devils. I'm interested to see what Carolina does. Supposedly, they had it locked up with Gensel, 8 years, $8 million. He hasn't come back and said he's going to accept that. He asked for something. They came ahead and said yes. Tampa's in on it. This is what Friedman said today at the draft. Very interesting. I think that they need him. They're not going to trade Natchez if they don't keep Gensel. If Gensel leaves, I can see them keeping Natchez. I can see them trading Natchez if Gensel stays.
Yep, there you go. Washington trading for Mangiapane was a good move. I think so.
I like all the moves Washington did.
Declan Grump.
Pittsburgh trading for Hayes was brain dead. No, they gave up a second, Grump. Hayes for a second. Horrible trade. Now that they are a retirement home. They're looking to trade Jari. They're looking for takers on Jari. We knew that was a bad deal when they signed it.
Here also saying Eiserman could be the next Mike Bossy.
Oh, let's pump the brakes on that, please.
I believe that the first we acquired was originally from Tampa's first. Yes, it was. Which layer was that for? No. Our first was definitely the one we had from Tampa. Here you go, Tim J.
That's why Lee was smiling, saying, "See you next year, suckers." New York Islander fans. P.S. He is in the next movie, Smile 3, and the Curse of the Cul-de-Sac. I like it.
Here you go.
Mario, long time no here, says, I hope Eiserman never plays for Bridgeport. He probably will, though. He's not a complete player. He's not.
He hopes that he's not ruined by the terrible development in Bridgeport is what he's hoping, Grump. So,
gotcha.
Nice comment here, Grump.
James Farrell says, guys, my son texted me and said Logan Thompson was at an autograph signing and he got traded in the middle of the signing. Yes, and he just kept on signing. Good for him.
Yep. The aim of the Islanders is to make the playoffs. The league is so competitive. Negativity is not an option. The team is not good enough to win a Stanley Cup. The objective is to win a Stanley Cup. Whatever we have to do that is what we need.
Okay. They're not Gene Kranz because failure absolutely is an option for the Islanders. Todd Peterson says, I take Ehlers, but they'd have to pay. Lane is just too sketchy at $8 million, wanting a final big deal might be a trap. It's hard to read. One good season, then he relapses for 6 years. Huge character issues. Take a flyer, release Riley, and pick him up off waivers after he gets waived again. I don't want Ehlers now. I'd be in for McGrody. I don't want Ehlers.
Again, what we should be doing is the thing I said that we should be doing for the beginning, right? And you were disagreeing with me in the offseason earlier on. I said We should be in a process of moving away from this. We should not add any players that are going to try to help us compete for now. Our objective should be to sell assets, acquire draft capital, restock the cupboards, as I mentioned there prior. James Farrell.
How come you guys didn't cover the draft?
I was busy. I was occupied, and Grump. Well, Grump.
What do you mean? I don't have control over who sets the show up.
I just thought you were going to get a show going on with X. You told me that last show. You said you're going to get a show maybe going on with X.
X was busy last night too. I was ready to do a show.
Wasn't my fault. Then you could blame X.
I'm not blaming.
Let's blame X.
TJ, you're early. Are we seeing the real TJ or an impossible? Well, actually, he's late. He was late.
JLS.
Finally, some prospects. Hopefully, Lou is coming to his senses. Hopefully, he's going to be bye-bye.
I don't think it's him coming to his senses. I think it's them telling him and instructing him what to do. We're saying, hey, you're gone.
Rich Arnold says he'd trade Pulak or Pelech for McGrody. I'm all for that, too.
You can get a lot more for Pulak or Pelech than McGrody, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know about that. Those are still a lot of years on those contracts. Gungu says, TJ and Grumpy, at what point did you realize that SunX wasn't serious about quarterbacking an episode last night covering the NHL draft?
As soon as Grump said, like, I just don't know if we're going to do it. I don't know. And then as soon as that happened, I'm like, well, they're not going to do that show.
Brandon Paul says, it just hit me that the Islanders are about to start retooling.
Thank God.
Good.
Thank
about
God.
time. It's 3 years too late. It's 3 years too late. Gungu says, call me a kook, but how would this name sound? The Utah Goongoons. Yes, you're a kook.
Oh, gosh, you go. John A. Grump.
Leave it to Lou to trade away first-round draft picks in better draft years, 22 and 23, and make all their selections in a weak-ass draft. Well, you know what? At least he did.
At least he's better than what it could have been. He could have traded this one away, too.
Declan adds, it's pretty simple. You sign free agents, you get better. Free agents, it's the name. They're free. Even if you move them, you're getting free value. It's been an issue for us. No one wants to come to the Islanders. And here's the thing. It could be a lot of young players don't like the general manager telling them how short they have to have their hair cut. They're not allowed to grow a beard. He runs it like a military camp. Players are different than they
Here's your curfew. This is this. This is that. You know, maybe he's like F off.
I'm not saying a probability. I'm just saying a possibility. Perfect example is Mario getting moved.
Mario, I don't know who that is.
I don't know who it is either.
Marino.
Marino. Okay.
Full expectation that Pesci.
With full understanding, Pesci will sign Monday. I 100% agree with
that. Okay. John A. Grump.
In the coming years, they better draft more skilled puck handlers and playmakers to set up guys like Yzerman because they are devoid of that in the minors as well. They have nothing in the minors.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is a step in the right direction. James Farrell says, not many goalies drafted in this year's draft. Well, the Islanders got 2 of them. James Farrell adds, your thoughts on having the draft at the Sphere. I hate it.
I thought it was really cool. I
Hated that background screen. I'm like, my God, they should have come out with, if you have problems with photo somethings, you're warned. You might be triggered by this. I looked at it, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Jake says, we're running it back. I like the first 3 picks from what I hear from Byron Bader on Twitter.
I'm absolutely fine with this because I think as long as we don't re-sign back the players, it gives us the flexibility when things are lackluster or average this season, we can sell off pieces to continue the rebuild or retool. That's what it's going to allow us to do, and that's what we need to have done. Just don't sign back Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri to long-term deals. Drew
says, I got people in my comments doubting Yzerman. Don't worry, he's a much better skater than Wallstrom, and the kid is 17 years old. He'll be just fine. We hope so.
Got a comment here from Frank.
Wow, I'm in shock we didn't trade any picks. I'm not. I had a feeling we were going to make the selections this year. I just did. Freedom Front Event says, TJ, some of the George Gershwin hits are Rock the Casbah, Boys of Summer, Fight the Power, Sweet Child of Mine, any worry naming Sweet Baby Liza after a diva drama queen with Bite You in the Ass.
Those are not songs that they sing.
It's The Clash, Don Henley. I forgot the rest that were up there. I think
Top Pearson.
Build pedigree in the minors and see what that tide brings.
Mario here, Grumpy.
How does a player who has no points in 5 out of 7 games in the finals win a Conn Smythe? Or the
Conn Smythe.
The Conn Smythe. That's how you win it. The Conn Smythe. Are the finals not part of the playoffs? Yeah. They
That's
kept
just not true.
He stat stuffed against worse teams, and
Mario, he had points in more than 2 of the games.
He only had 8 goals. He only had 8 goals the whole playoffs. Just 8.
He had the most assists ever recorded in the history of the NHL in the NHL playoffs. Yeah,
8 goals.
He's just breaking records. I know you don't understand about that, and don't.
You know what he didn't do? He didn't win a Stanley Cup.
Breaking records.
You get rated on. You don't get rated on being Josh Bailey in the playoffs. You don't get that.
Records, Grump.
Brandon Paul says, "How would you feel about the Islanders signing Beauvillier in the offseason?" Okay, you know what? If he wants to take a vet minimum deal or
to come in as a fourth liner, that's fine.
No problem. But he's not going to. He'll get paid more than that.
JP.
I'm relieved that Lou didn't trade any picks, but proving that the NHL franchise has a sense of direction is going to take making some tough, unpopular choices. 100% agree. There are guys in free agency which are coming up that maybe the Islanders could target, but they have no money. Yep. Like, how much you think Marchessault is going to get? He's a little older, but he's a guy they could absolutely take a shot at signing.
Freedom Fund Adventure. Here's the thing. I will like it. Fuck. If we had cap space and a reputable GM like Lou Lamoriello, I think we could win and sign free agents. I really do believe that we could have done that, but we've just been in such the mindset of, oh, we need to keep the core together. We need to keep the group together. We can't go ahead and let anybody go. We can't move on from anybody. So we have to make sure we keep re-signing anybody. Well, it left you cap strapped at the top of the salary cap floor, or at the top of the salary cap ceiling every single year. So it didn't matter whether you could have maybe won a player over in free agency. You never even gave yourself the chance because you didn't even have the prerequisite, which was the cap space allowed to do anything like that. So, we're a more reputable organization, and once Lou leaves, when we start this rebuild process, we will have cap space available. That will tell us whether we can re-sign or sign free agents or not.
Ownership is not afraid to spend money. They're not afraid to spend money.
Yep.
Freedom Fund Adventure says, TJ, do you have room to criticize anyone for their fashion choices?
Yes, I do. A lot of room.
Drew says, rare moment, but I agree with TJ on this one. Anders Lee looked like a fool last night. Nah, I'm not going to dump on him for that. Just not going to. Peter M says, Mike Riley is in Italy too. He's definitely coming back. I don't know. He's going to hit free agency.
Yeah.
And he should. Lou should, hit free agency. We're willing to offer you.
They're going to pay him a lot. Somebody's going to pay him a lot.
2 years, $2 million. If you can get better than that, fine. That's what I would say to him. Nothing more.
You go. Freedom Fund Adventure.
Danny Nelson and Cole Eiserman are former roommates.
I didn't know that. That's pretty neat.
That bothers me.
Oh, fuck yeah. I guess I didn't think about that. James Farrell.
NHL. And so is the other guy.
He's going to be his future roommate and line mate.
Bednarik.
Bednarik is the future.
It's like
keep in the family.
What did they just go to one school? I mean, I don't know. You tell me. James Farrell says the NHL channel said Jesse Pulkkinen.
It's a project. Yep. Yeah. That was the first words that said, that's not a project. That's a big project.
Todd Peterson says Barzal will do all the skating. All he has to do is find his spots. We need a dog on the boards, though. Okay. You realize they had that in Wallstrom, but they never gave him a shot on the first line. You're gonna have to play more of a two-way game. You're just gonna have to.
Frank says, "What's up with drafting 2 goalies in a row?" It's not the first time we've done it either. We did that in the draft class a few years ago too.
Yeah, they don't know how to draft goalies. But they should pick one every year, though. I'm all for picking one.
What is X's lazy ass doing? He started a few and then he stopped working. What the fuck? He's barely showing up to work today, Grump.
Fun adventure. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the dog had to go to the bathroom.
Oh,
Grumpy. Freedom Fun says, Grumpy can tell you from my time in the music industry, getting a name act is minimum $500,000, but probably $1 million. Had serious stage speakers. Pulak didn't pay for that. Okay, maybe he didn't. I don't know. I have no idea. Matter of fact, I don't even know the name of that band. What were they called? The
Chainsmokers. They're very
Chainsmokers. Sounds like they got an issue. Maybe they work at a Waffle House. I have no idea.
They're popular.
Never.
Yep. Eiserman and Bednarik will be line mates and teammates at Boston University. I liked the Kessel comparison for Eiserman.
Okay, because a lot of people didn't like Phil Kessel. Now, I'm just saying a lot of people didn't like him in many of his stops. Boston, he seemed like he was okay in Pittsburgh. absolutely was with Crosby. You know what? If you get Phil Kessel out of Yzerman, I think it's a good deal for you.
I'm fine with that.
That's a good
Absolutely
draft.
fine. Okay. I don't know. I'm trying to read through all these because X didn't do his job.
Well, here's a big one. There's a big one from David DeJesu.
Lou is a dumpster fire when it comes to salary cap, says Dale. That's absolutely.
That's true.
If Bobrovsky didn't poop his pants in games 4 through 6 of the Stanley Cup, it would have been his Conn Smythe Award. Did Zorro have a sharp sword?
He did.
On guard. There's Zorro.
Do you know what Zorro used to carve into people's clothes?
Z.
A Z.
For Zorro. Yes, Grumpy.
You didn't know. They just guessed.
Frank said, Grump, you could do the show with the X-Man more often. Well, as you can see here, he's not even starring comments, which is his one job. He's been on the.
I'm absolutely willing to do shorter shows with the X-Man, but he has to
commit.
It's a two-way street. I'm willing to do that.
JLS says Fields is awfully quiet today. Well, it's because it's a Sabbath. But yes, Fields is quiet today.
I am certain. He said he would come on the show today if we were going on if we were on at 10 o'clock. Because I know he's excited, and he didn't get to see the Islanders pick last night because he's
Sabbath started.
Yes. So.
Okay, here you go. We have an Iginla back on the ice, says My Little Brownie. I like the colors of the Ottawa Hockey Club. It should keep them for whatever name they eventually choose.
Yeah, like a Grizz, like a Yeti or a Blizzard, something like that.
Because it's what is it like this like whitish blue color, like
white blue, like it's like snow. It reminds me of snow. It absolutely does. I liked the owner of Utah coming out and talking shit to Vegas. I absolutely liked. I loved it.
What were they? Remind me what they said. I didn't hear that.
He said something along the lines like, yeah, Vegas, we can't wait to beat you or something like that. And then he started booing. He was like, yeah, bring it on. He wants a rivalry. Good for him. Why not? Who's going to be a rival for Utah? And I like what they did. I absolutely like what they did in this offseason so far. I didn't like the fact they said TJ Iginla is, the first draft pick of the, there's like nothing from Arizona anymore. I'm like,
I hate that because I'm like, yes, I'm like, what are you talking about?
All the players are from Arizona. It's the Arizona team moved. So don't say it's their first pick ever.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway.
It's like nobody else exists.
Right.
I'd much rather be Arizona right now or Utah right now than the Islanders.
Why are they saying that this was the last in-person draft? Are they daft?
I don't think that.
Todd Peterson said here, we are organizationally inept. Player development is non-existent. McLean was a Carolina developed player, and we got really lucky that he was the coach's son. Yeah,
I like Kyle McLean.
And like most of these Islander casuals, I am actually watching scouting film on everyone who was drafted by my team.
Well, Drew, you got to help us out then. I need you to come
on. You're my man. Freedom from the venture, Grumpy.
The draft was awesome in the Sphere. I didn't like the one commentator said at the end of the broadcast, if this is the last in-person draft, it's cool to see it in person. They sold tickets and it's sold out. I can't talk just business speaking, man, that's dumb. That's dumb. You sell out an arena and you don't want to do it live anymore. I think that's the best thing. I think hockey is it's a family sport. And I love seeing, the moms and the dads get emotional when the kids get drafted because they're all there. I just think it's fantastic. It's not like in the NFL, okay, we'll bring 10 guys in and they'll stand here and blah, blah, blah. And you get to hug Roger Goodell. It's more of a family thing in the NHL. I love it, holding it at a big stadium. Love it. Polymetal CX30 says, I was stunned in a positive way that we actually used a first-round pick. I don't think any trades are happening now, though, because of that. I agree.
Frank says here, hit the thumbs up, everyone. Absolutely here. David DeJesu, Grumpy.
Good evening, guys. I like that we kept our draft picks. We should have started this route 3 years ago. 100% agree. Problem is, while every Metro team is restructuring and improving this roster, we are to keep the same cast of characters, no changes. Watch before July 1st next season, Lou resigns Nelson and Palmieri. Unless we had a real goal scorer at some point in the next 1 to 2 years, we'll be a fringe team. If not, this year, end of next season, will be buyout or trade Pajot and Lee, or both 1 year left on their deals.
Yes, they're both. ideally what we should be doing is now, as these guys are coming up on expiring deals, starting to trade them away and then starting to use those draft picks. We're going to have to get through a time period where we're going to be worse, right? As I mentioned, the fall from grace is hard and fast. You're going to have, your team is going to be bad for a bit. Use the draft pick selected. You're going to have a cap space available in free agency, augment the team, make them somewhat competitive as you're still drafting young players and acquiring talent through the draft to restock the cupboards. It's going to take time.
And when you go in free agency, look at the second level guys, the guys that you only need to sign for like 3 years,
3 or 4 years, and then move on.
Even 3 years, because you're going to be filled now. Hypothetically, if you're going and you're going to be doing the draft, absolutely, then 3 years sign these guys. If you want to stretch to 4, but go with second level guys. Don't go out and sign a Jake Gensel. It just makes no sense.
Need somebody who puts the puck in the back of the net this year in free agency, says Paul.
No.
We don't have any cap space. We've got to actually get the least amount of cap space available out of any team. And again, when you start taking into teams that have like a long-term injury, that will add to their cap space available.
With the qualifying offers for Wallstrom and Holmstrom, it's less than $3 million.
Free and venture grumpy.
Phil Kessel never looked like an athlete on any level. Even in his prime, he didn't look good enough shape to play a pickup game at the park. But I'll tell you what, he could score when he wanted to play. I didn't like the fact that he was, smoking. It's like, come on, dude.
The Fun Adventure says here, I was so happy to see Son X tonight, but he let us down. He showed up for the glory and is playing video games again, shaking my head. He needs to get a job where daddy can't protect him. Yeah, he should. He's back playing video games, not starring comments. He popped in, did like a few comments, popped in and left.
Did he leave? Did he leave?
He's just sitting here doing nothing is what he's doing.
Okay.
X is doing nothing here. Gungun says, is Tavares on the upside or the downside? Grumpy, care to do the electric slide?
I'm not doing the electric slide. Tavares is absolutely on the downside.
He is. Jay says, Utah's mascot should be an Amish dude having a threesome.
Okay. They're not Amish people. They're polygamists. It's different.
Good gracious. Lou did well, said Marquette. Yeah. I was happy with what transpired yesterday.
Again, what do you call it, TJ? The ignorance of low expectations?
It's the bigotry of low
expectations. We have
such low expectations for Lou Lamoriello that when he does what is expected of him, we celebrate and say, wow, it could have been so much worse.
Yep.
That's just it's a quintessential definition of bigotry of low expectations.
That's it, yes.
Goon Grumpy said, TJ, you seem not very jolly tonight. Can you flash a smile? No, I'm happy. I'm happy. We did what we needed to do. I'm happy that Lou Lamoriello is not going to prioritize signing back Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri at the forefront. That is huge. I'm happy we used our draft picks. Could we have maybe drafted different players? Sure. But I'm happy at least we're taking steps in the right direction. We're headed there, right? Got to crawl before you walk, before you run. I think at least we're crawling at this point. We need to get up to running one day, but we're crawling, which is much better than sitting still. Mark A said here, trade Brock for 2 firsts, trade Palmieri for 1 first rounder, and we will be set.
I don't think they have that much value.
I don't think they have that much value at this point. If you would, again, if you would have traded, as we mentioned, Brock Nelson last year at the deadline, maybe you could have got 2 first rounds because you would have had him last year for the run here this year and the next year.
And he was really good for maybe 2 first rounders and a prospect, or first, a second, and a prospect.
Yeah, I've been fine with that. And Kyle Palmieri, right? Kyle Palmieri had a fantastic second half of the season under Patrick Waugh.
Move him.
Yeah. James Farrell says here, guys, what are your thoughts on the Ducks new uniform?
I like him. Two thumbs way up.
I like him. Frank says here, that defenseman we drafted seems to be hidden or have a hidden offensive side.
I'm not getting my hopes up for that.
He's an overage kid, so I'll wait to see what it looks like here in America and then for Bridgeport. Todd Peterson, Grump.
I'd be focusing on post-CBA, get cap ready, and develop a proving ground for the Islanders hockey in the minors. Then we can be a solid NHL team, NHL.
Drew
says the Ducks are sure as hell off to a great start in the new era. They took Simon Holmstrom 2.0 and the number 3 overall pick, but their uniforms are ugly on top of that. Yep. Trevor Zegras is leaving. Now that's a guy I would roll the dice and make a trade for.
Yeah.
Young guys like that. Absolutely.
Well, let's do this, Grumpy. We're going to wrap this show up here. Been on a little over 2 hours. Grumpy, what do you want to say before we wrap things up here today?
I want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens and even those who don't. From TJ, the grumpy old man, and Son X.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning into the show here today. We'll be live with you guys tomorrow on TJ and the Grumpy Old Man at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be live again. Well, actually, yeah, next Saturday we'll be live. We'll be live next Saturday. 2 Saturdays from now, we will not be live on the show. So next Saturday, we will be live. 2 Saturdays from now, not so much. Thank you so much, guys, there for joining the show here today, commenting in. I'm happy with what the Islanders did. I think this is absolutely a step in a direction where I think the Islanders could be phasing out Lou Lamoriello, or they could be starting a little bit of a transition. They drafted all of their players, all of their picks. They did not trade away selections to try to add to the team for now. And Lou Lamoriello, at the end of today's draft, spoke with Andrew Gross and spoke with the Islanders media and said it is not a priority to sign back right now Kyle Palmieri and Brock Nelson on July 1st.
I just want to say one thing. Paul Weinberger sent in a comment. It says, sorry, I was gone so long. Glad to be back. I was sick. Now doing better. Thank goodness, Paul. We're happy you're feeling better.
Absolutely, Grump. What do you want to say here before we wrap things up, Grump?
I already said it.
All righty. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. We'll be with you guys here live next Saturday. Thank you so much, Grumpy. Thank you so much, Son X. Thanks everybody for listening as well. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for all the engagement.